check. Hit that like, everybody. Hit that like, everybody. Give a thumbs up. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can do it. Whatever site you're on, you can do it. What's happening? 43. We get 100. Oh, the heck with it. I'm just going to jump straight in here. I got to get this show on the road. There's so much stuff going on. Hi. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Oh, I'm sorry. I caught hell for my moving backgrounds a couple of times. So the one that seems to move the least is this one. So it's a little calmer. It only moves occasionally. I like to keep it, kind of exciting, like I'm on a real news show, like they have on Newsmax, where they do all their shows out of a garage in San Diego. I'm kidding. I'm fairly certain that Greg Kelly's show is done out of a storage space in Midland, Texas. Howdy, Carl. Good to see you. Welcome everybody. Good to see you. Hello. Hit that like. We're at 53. We can hit 100. We can do it. And one thumbs down. We can do better in the thumbs down as well. I mean, come on. We gotta have at least 5 thumbs down in there. Where are the maggots when you need them? These people aren't actually watching Trump-oriented shows and liking what they see. I have so much. There is no way I could cover all the maggotry clips of people that were allegedly on Trump's side or at one point supported him that have they have not come over to Democrats. They're not going to do that, but have absolutely bailed on Trump and everybody else. In his cabinet, like it's almost like they're just spinning a big wheel, like who to hate this week. And oddly enough, it's barely ever Tulsi, largely because she's never there. I think that's why she's dodged most of it. They hate Kash Patel. That's a big. I think my guess is because the online maggotry are very racist. So the fact that he's Indian is why they hate him. The fact that he's ineffective at his job and obviously a dry drunk asshole who gets drunk on the taxpayer's dime all the time. That would be a reason for not liking a human being. Their skin color has nothing to do with it. But that's just me. I'm one of those. I judge people in the content of their character like an asshole. But all right, so there is. Where do we even begin? Okay, let's start with. Trump went to China. He went to China, and Xi Jinping left him hanging on the tarmac, which was particularly hysterical. Just totally ignored him. Just sad. Nobody. Well, yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I could find just a clip of him, like Trump Beijing arrival. They just sent a bunch of flunkies and school kids to greet him. Trump was not there. I mean, sorry, Xi Jinping was not there. Trump's not all there. um, and let's see, a lot of the maggots, for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why, but a lot of maggots don't like showing him going down the stairs. It's very peculiar. It's very telling. That they'll show him in the Beast. They'll show him walking down the carpet with a bunch of people waving stuff at him, that kind of stuff. But they do not want to show him walking down the stairs. And it could very well be because, and this is why like the footage is so terrible. If you try to find it, it's really out of focus and all this stuff here. Hold on, let's see if I can do this real quick. Yeah. So here's Trump. Who leads first? Yeah, there we go. You have his lead-in guy, and then there's. Oh yeah, this is somebody comparing Biden coming down the steps to Trump. So here we go. This is Biden coming down the steps of Air Force One into China. By the way, being met by the leadership there. Hold on, let me go back to. Where's my comms one? Here it is. Oh, here it is. Over here. Okay. So this is Obama coming down the steps, meeting everybody. Air Force One. Here comes Obama. Just tap, 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 tap. No banister, just walking, just saying hello. Off he goes. And here comes Trump down the steps. We'll do this bit right here. Oh God. Oh Lord. Oh boy. Look out. Here it comes. Hold on, I'm going to turn the audio off on this. Oh. If you turn the music down, you can actually hear what it really sounds like when he's walking. Yeah. Just a death grip on that banister. And part of it is because he's shit on Biden so many times that he's panicked that eventually he's going to, he's going to eat shit on the world stage and he knows it's coming. Yeah. How to get that elephant on the plane? Yeah, it's hard to tell. So, needless to say, he's really worried about being embarrassed if he falls down the stairs and yada yada yada. And he would be. That would clearly be rough for him. There's, he would go, there's no recovering from that one. And he would be right. And I got to say, not because he won't save face in the future, but because I literally think it would be fatal considering the shape he's in. There's just everywhere else you'll find footage of him. He's already down the stairs. So he's in China, and the Fox Business folks are doing their best, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. I'm going to stop this because I don't want to play two videos at once. China. This is Trump stuns Beijing. They're stunned. Beijing is Beijing. That's how you pronounce it. Is stunned by Trump's blunt warning. China. So, yeah. Also, by the way, let's see. No, I didn't do it. Sorry. My bad. I'm going to have to do this. Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Hold on. Yeah. Just for the record, Trump's nunt is the thing of nightmares. Viewers are advised to have a barf bag handy. Just viewer discretion is advised. I made a button and everything, so it's easier to do. You like it? It's good. All right. So, so I also made this while I was at it because I thought this might actually help. Did it work? Hold on. No. Yeah, there's the subscribe one, and then I see. I probably didn't push play on this guy. There you go. Yay! Subscribe. There you go. So reminding everybody to subscribe. Yeah, I'm being all pro about it now. I was slacking for a while. But yes, there's a brand new nunt warning. And you deserved it. So this took a couple of things because I used AI to do this. This is one of the good things AI is for, because I wanted the distressed look or whatever. And it was not sure about the word nunt for a while. So it turned me down. It kept trying to go, I think that violates my policies. And then I realized when I spelled nunt in all lowercase, it bought it for some reason. So I don't know why that would be. But what are you going to do? So here's Trump, listen to me. Trump and his nunt talking about China on Fox Business. Well, they're talking about him talking about China.
President Trump lands in Beijing for his first trip to China in almost 10 years.
It's pronounced China.
He's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping for
Not right now, he isn't.
a two-day summit, and he's brought along with him a delegation of executives representing $12 trillion in American economic might.
Right. So you really want to take him to China where something awful can happen? Is that smart? You don't think these assholes can afford their own flight over there?
Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Bremberg, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Jerry Willis, Jackie DeAngelis, and
Taylor Riggs, by the way, is the one that has consistently gone off the rails and is no longer on the Trump train like she's supposed to be. But, you know, what do I know? She's on a morning show on Fox wearing lime green? Is that key lime pie green?
And with us for the hour, he's bad to the bone, but we call him Mr. Sunshine, Rosecliff founder and managing partner, Mike Murphy. Good to see you, sir.
Happy to be here.
All right. So what will it be? A massive trade reset, geopolitical deal-making, or another stalemate? Aisha Hasni is in Beijing with the latest. Hey there, Aisha.
Yeah, Aisha, how was his first meeting with Xi Jinping when he came off the plane?
Hey there, we'll find out soon enough because the president is going to get straight to work starting tomorrow, Beijing time.
Sorry, get straight to work tomorrow. So, all right. So he's going to bed. He's been sleeping on the plane the whole time. They've been putting out phony truths all day to make it look like he's not sleeping, and then he's going right to bed.
The president previewed for us
right to work tomorrow. Okay.
What he's going to be talking with Xi about. And the first thing he says he's going to make a request is for Xi to open up China to some of these business leaders that are coming along with him, part of this big delegation of tech and business CEOs.
Sorry, China's problem isn't them not being open to tech. It's stealing it, I think.
He wants China to do business with them. He wants trade to be the topic of conversation coming out of this summit. But he also says he will have a long talk with Xi about Iran. He says he does not need China's.
By the way, the length of it is more about the lack of depth.
Intervention to get a deal with Iran, but he does note that it is China that stands to benefit the most from an open Strait of Hormuz because it.
Trump's like, why don't we have like young girls waving flags in skirts when I come off planes when I get to America?
Gets a ton of oil from Iran. It is the biggest purchaser of the Iranian crude oil. Listen to this.
I have a great relationship with President Xi.
I don't know how anybody can think this is true.
And I think it's going to remain that way. We have a lot of things to discuss. I wouldn't say Iran is one of them, to be honest with you, because we have Iran very much under control. We're either going to make a deal or they're going to be decimated. One way or the
I thought they were already decimated. Do you not recall? Or, is decimated more or less than obliterated? It's kind of like the argument about, a shit ton, versus a truckload, right? Which is more?
The other, we win.
A ton of shit in a truck.
We're going to be talking with President Xi about a lot of different things. I would say more than anything else will be trade.
Brilliant. I feel like I've learned so much. Hit that like, by the way. We're at 80. We can hit 100.
Yeah, a lot of different things. It feels like everything under the sun is on the table. Everything from tariffs to artificial intelligence, chip production.
Oh my God.
Production, the status of Taiwan, beef and soybean exports. Again, there's a large.
Why would we? Okay, soybeans maybe, but why would we be exporting beef when the price of it is so high here because of a lack of supply?
Delegation of tech and business CEOs arriving here as well. According to Elon Musk, though,
Tim Cook is no longer in charge of Apple. I guess the guy He's the former head of Apple as of, 2 weeks from now? He's on for another week.
It was
Larry Fink from BlackRock, right up there. We're doing it in alphabetical order. Steven Schwarzman from Blackstone. Kelly Ortberg from Boeing. Brian Sykes from Cargill. Citibank's Jane Fraser, Jim Anderson, coherent, H. Lawrence Culp, any relation to Robert? Jeez, Ralph, you put on the pajamas? GE Aerospace, Goldman Sachs, David Solomon, Jacob Thazen, Illumina, Michael Maybach from MasterCard, Dina Powell McCormick from Meta, big name, tiny little title of a company, Sanjay Mehrotra, beg your pardon, from Micron, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, Cristiano Amon from Qualcomm, Elon Musk, of course, basically just he's just there to visit his own factories that exist. And then Ryan McInerney from Visa.
It was just him and the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, who were riding along with the president aboard Air Force.
NVIDIA. It's NVIDIA. It's NVIDIA. It's not NVIDIA. There's no NVIDIA. There's no. It'd be NVIDIA. There's no after the N before the V. It's NVIDIA. It's old-fashioned internet. Shave off the first vowel.
Air Force One. The president truth socialing aboard Air Force One a couple of hours ago. He said, "I will be asking President Xi, a leader of extraordinary distinction, to."
Oh, my God.
To open up China so that these brilliant people can work their magic and help bring the People's Republic to an even higher level.
Great. So that maggots can cry China first now.
Now, we won't see the president anymore tonight,
Uh-huh. Because of his chemically induced coma.
Beijing time. He's at his hotel for the night. We will see him early tomorrow when he heads to the Great.
When he's done with the having the hookers pee on the bed.
Hall, and that
it's a tradition.
That is where.
Look, they're important parts of your culture you have to preserve.
He is going to be received by.
Wait, I think we have audio of Trump in the hotel. Yeah, we do. Yep, that's it. It's apparently it's bedtime. All right.
The president of China, Xi. Back to you.
All right, Aisha, we will watch all of it. Thank you very much. Okay, Murph, what do you want to see? Big trip, Wong on the plane, Musk on the plane, Trump. The other guys, I guess, had to find their own ride.
Commercial.
That's right, commercial. Coach.
So what I love about this just from the jump here is that President Trump is handling his own messaging. So he.
Oh, my God. Says who? All right. No, he isn't. It's Natalie Harp, the woman who follows him around, the human printer, is the one who front loads all of his truth sinkholes. They had a big report that leaked out about that specifically, like yesterday. Okay, what shit? Let me just show you. Hold on. Where is my? It's all these screens. Just finding the mice in and of themselves. Okay. Let's see. I think it was. I want to say Daily Beast had it. Yeah. This is. She's basically responsible for his late night blather. Young woman fueling Trump's wild midnight sprees is exposed. Trump is often not alone during his sleepless nights. Barf. Okay. Members of President Trump's inner circle are secretly fed up with the aide who is enabling his unhinged late night truth social rampages. And again, she's not there doing it, with him while he's in the room. Ugh. He just blathers a bunch of shit. She takes notes and she posts all these things, and I'll show you that. Most nights, the president fires off dozens of posts attacking his political enemies, amplifying conspiracy theories, spreading AI slop videos and messages, boosting offensive content from obscure MAGA accounts, and X on his Truth Social board. But despite the odd hours, Trump isn't doing it all alone, according to a new report in the Wall Street Journal. His executive assistant, Natalie Harp, is the driving force behind some of his most incendiary content, including a racist video that depicted Barack and Michelle Obama as apes and an AI-generated image of Trump as Jesus Christ, both of which Trump later took down. Harp, who's in her mid-30s, brings the president and looks she's right out of the Ivanka dispenser, which is what makes it even creepier. Brings the president stacks of printed out drafts of social media posts, many of them recycling content from other accounts for Trump to approve. So again, he doesn't send these out. She brings these things and he check marks them and she retruths them on the site in the middle of the night or preps them for automatic release at a certain hour. She then logs onto the president's account and posts batches of Trump approved messages. And again, posts batches of them. She's doing this. He is not. This idea that he doesn't sleep and he's powerful and the guy never stops is all bullshit. He sleeps a lot and he's still tired. The idea that he stays up all night excuses the fact that he might doze off in a meeting because they're like, oh, of course he dozes off occasionally. A, these things are boring. And B, he was up all night giving them what for? You know, drinking liberal tears. He was guzzling them online all night long. He's not. He's fucking conked. And she's posting these things for him. So anyways, everybody's mad that she's doing this stuff. So just for the record, he's not in charge of his own message.
He's setting the stage for who he's with, who he's bringing, why he's bringing them, and what he plans to speak to President Xi about.
Where do you get this? Why would you even think this? First of all presidents should have a team of people that they're working with on a myriad of issues because no single person can delude themselves enough into believing that they know everything about all these issues. You would want to have different teams coordinating on different stuff, and they would report to you, and you would be aware of this stuff. But the idea that you're like, I know more about trade than you trade guys do. Shut up. I got this all figured out. Meanwhile, I only sleep 3 hours a night and have a shitty diet and snort benzos and Adderall all day long and drink Diet Coke. It's just furtherance of mythology. That's what this is.
He's not going to let the media or anyone else set the stage for what's going to happen. He's telling us. So what do we come away from this with? Clearly, both men have to come out on top. The two most powerful men in the world. Neither one's going to give in necessarily. But I think President Trump's plan to have an open China is a win, yes, for China, but a bigger win for the United States and the rest of the world. If you had a more of a democracy, more capitalism in China, how does that help our economy? So I think there's a lot of upside here.
Right. I guess, how does it help our economy?
And if he just plays it the way he set it out, I think it's going to be a win.
Okay.
He didn't set it out. He just said, I'm going to talk about these things that I'm sure it's going to be great.
Open China. I have some skepticism, Taylor, about China's willingness to open. Nice goal.
Yeah.
I don't know that they want to do that, but I do think they would love to have NVIDIA chips, and not the second-rate ones, the first-rate ones. Do you think that's a big chip on the table in these negotiations?
Yeah, Trump doesn't give a fuck. He would gladly give all this shit away. You nutcase. Of course he doesn't give a goddamn. He's not even sure why it matters. In 1 second. I had to do one. There you go. Yep. Whoops. Oh, sorry. I'm typing the wrong thing. There we go. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, chips are part of the chip negotiating table. I do like that. Comment I heard this morning, maybe we give them not the latest and greatest chips, but just like 6 months behind or a year behind. And we talked to Daniel Newman yesterday, and I like that he was saying that we originally thought that chips depreciated in 6 months, and we're actually still using chips from 6 years ago. So if you give them chips from 6 months or a year ago, that may not be a bad thing. NVIDIA gets to benefit from it in the meantime, but they don't get the latest and greatest. And guess what? Yes, they'll reverse engineer, but we're always going to be a step ahead because we have, and I'll check your math on this, by my estimates, 14.7 trillion in market cap going over there, given the hefty weight of our CEOs. With that brain power, I guess I'm not worried about us only having the latest and greatest and China only having maybe a version or two behind, because we will always outmove her. We will always outsmart.
Yeah, the problem with chips is that once you get past 4 nanometers, the idea that there's 2 nanometers, you got to move into quantum before you get any fucking smaller than that. So yeah, shit that's a year old they're already behind in producing the latest and greatest chips here in the United States. One of the reasons why we're still using more than likely a year old chips in even the biggest AI fields and the biggest AI companies is because they just can't make the Blackwell and the Vera Rubin and all those fast enough to keep up with demand. So if you're giving them a year-old chips, that's exactly what we're running everything on right now, by and large. so they would catch up instantly, stupid. It's so weird.
Because we have the brain power. When China mints a billionaire, that billionaire disappears. Do we remember that story? And everyone's like, where did he go? Because Xi Jinping doesn't like billionaires. We embrace, for the most part, we embrace ours, unless I'm in California or a blue state. But we
or Texas
embrace them
or Tennessee.
And so I'm just so confident that we will always outmove her. I'm going to be looking
We're going to outmove her?
At what I'm going to call the Beijing basket. That's going to be the traded market cap of chips, perhaps. All
right, this is just dipshittery. Point being is that all this is about is creating the illusion that Trump has a plan when he absolutely does not. There's no there. He's going to wing it. He thinks he can go over there and wing it. Buy more of our stuff. Talk to these guys about what that stuff is. I don't give a shit. Meanwhile, back at home, there's some rough movement going on in MAGA world, even amongst the. Well, I don't even know if this is friendly fire or not. But where did that go there? That's not the page. What you doing? What you doing? I wanted to go to this guy. Yeah, there we go. All right. There you go. Yeah, there we go. Anti-Trump? Nick Fuentes? Tucker Carlson? Candace Owens? And Trump or anti-Trump? What in the world? I'm side-eyeing them. This is my response to the anti-Trump right by Nick Fuentes.
Trump seems to be undergoing this really significant worldview change. And we've seen this.
You mean betrayal of all of his alleged beliefs that everybody else saw coming except maggots?
With Tucker Carlson. We have seen this with Candace Owens. We've seen this to some degree with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
To some degree, she fucking quit, dude.
Dave Smith has always been Dave Smith, so that one doesn't surprise.
Yeah, you're going to Dave Smith. Dave Smith's going Dave Smith like Dave Smith is going Dave Smith.
Surprise me as much. We've also seen it with other characters as well, with other figures. Like Megyn Kelly is starting to call into this camp. And the thing that I've noticed is that there seems to be a correlation. Nick Fuentes is also somewhat in this camp. But
like, as this guy talks longer, it's going to eventually be everybody except him and Ben Shapiro.
But he's kind of a different
and Mark Levin. That's it. There's the three of them.
Different outlier as well. There seems to be this correlation with how you feel about the Trump administration, and not just the Iran war or whatnot, but how you feel about Israel, or in some cases, like with Fuentes, the Jewish people in general.
Yeah, there's one particular Jewish person who may or may not have escaped from jail by pretending to be dead in 2019 that sticks out more than, say, the general, what Tucker calls the Jewish question.
And I've said this, I don't know how many times. If you want to be skeptical of the Israeli government or Benjamin Netanyahu, be my guest. Like, I'm skeptical of all governments, so why would you leave Israel out?
Well, if you're skeptical of all governments, that's just cowardice. You're just writing off governance, which, by the way, you absolutely don't believe. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Anybody who's like, government can't do anything right. And you're like, did you fly in an airplane recently, dickhead? You're even trusting it when there are shitheads from the real world in charge. So fuck off.
What I don't understand is what to me seems like a completely disproportional response to things that go on in Israel, or that Israel does, compared to what other countries do that these people are now defending, right? There seems to be this general running to the defense of Islam, right? It would be one thing if they said, because if you look at each one of these people, they were all very, very critical of Islam, and they were all very critical of Middle Eastern countries who they clearly associated with terrorist activities.
Right, but the Islamic Republic of Iran and the people of Iran, especially the Persian ones, there's a massive separation between the two that is a distinction that Donald Trump doesn't seem to be willing or want to make. He'll talk about how great the people they're talking to are in the Iranian government, but then threaten to wipe out the entire civilization, which would be the general public. And it seems to a lot of people, and I think rightly so, that Trump tends to side on the power broker and elites of any particular country over the public of any country, including ours. So fuck you.
And yet now all three of these people, and by this I'm talking specifically about Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, somewhat Marjorie Taylor Greene, but increasingly Megyn Kelly. They can't just be critical of Islam, they have to defend, or excuse me, they can't just be critical of Israel, they have to defend Islam. And it's not that they can be critical of Israel, Israel's influence or whatnot. Israel now explains everything. Megyn Kelly's not so bad on this yet, but she's trending in that direction.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe there's some sort of like a thermometer we can put in, kind of like a Megyn telethon.
With Candace and Tucker, like the only way they can explain certain things is what must be Israel. And I remember when Joe Kent did this, and I was like, okay, I'm not claiming Joe Kent and I are drinking buddies, but I know Joe. I had him on the podcast. I encouraged his run for Congress.
Right. And how did that work out? Your buddy Trump keeps calling him a loser. So.
And I read off a bunch of things Joe Kent was saying about Israel for the past 5 years, or excuse me, a bunch of things Joe Kent was saying about Iran for the past 5 years. And then his claims when he left the National Counterterrorism Center, it was like, okay, Joe, it's not like you've presented a bunch of new evidence to refute everything that you were saying for the past 5 years. And that's my same problem.
Well, maybe because he can't, because those are national secrets. But you can kind of maybe guess from his experience that when he's looking at stuff, what he's seeing as a threat is largely fabricated when it comes to Iran, especially that it's made up by the people who want to knock it over. And that our defense of Israel in a bunch of these places is not justified and certainly not financially necessary. They should be able to handle their own shit by and large. And so what he was saying before, it's kind of like Bongholio. Bongholio's talking shit about and Patel talking shit about how the FBI is all compromised and everybody in it, and they're going to shut down the FBI headquarters and all this stuff. And then they get in there and get a look at real shit, and they're like, oh, fuck, right, we need the FBI.
Problem with Tucker and my same problem.
Thank you, Water Goddess. I see you too.
With Candace. And people will say all the day long that Candace brings the receipts. No, she doesn't. Candace will point out something like she'll point out something from the Talmud, or she'll point out something that a Jewish rabbi says. And all of a sudden, that's what all Jews believe. And I'm looking at that.
Well, yeah, that's called racism and bigotry. And there's a lot of it. I mean, dude, you're a maggot. Get used to it. Yes.
That sort of reason. I see Tucker do this as well. I look at this sort of reason. It's like, this doesn't follow. Like,
they're not following. They're leading. Okay. You're the one that's behind.
This is the sort of reasoning I've watched the left use within this kind of critical theory dynamic where you have oppressors and oppressed. And if somebody fits into the oppressed category, well, then they're the good guys. They're our tribe. They're great. And if someone fits into the oppressor category, well, then they're bad. And everything they do is bad. And everything they believe is bad. And I'm watching Tucker and Candace adopt this same sort of world.
Yeah, but they still think Ukraine invaded Russia. So don't worry about it. They're just as full of shit as they used to be. They'll come around.
View. And so now Tucker is looking at the Iran war saying, I feel implicated. I feel horrible that I ever supported Donald Trump. It's like, so do you wish you would have supported Kamala Harris? Do you wish?
Yeah, I think what he meant was stand down or support somebody else. And Trump, like, he's literally going back to 2015, 2016. Don't worry, he's not apologizing to all the people he shit on and bared false witness against, like myself and others who were trying to warn you dickheads this whole time that, Donald Trump would tell the story of the snake when he was, in fact, the snake.
Wish you would have supported someone else? Do you wish Donald Trump had lost that race? And what about your worldview and what about the values? Because you still claim to be a conservative. What about your conservative values would have been better served if Kamala Harris had been president?
Well, infrastructure, affordability and home ownership, a focus of tax dollars on rebuilding parts of America. She certainly wouldn't have invaded Iran. She would have curtailed what Israel was doing in Gaza, and certainly wouldn't have supported them doing what they done in Lebanon and looking the other way during it. She wouldn't have put she wouldn't have blockaded the Strait of Hormuz and said it was open. She wouldn't have. We wouldn't have had to abduct the leader of Venezuela. She wouldn't be talking about making Venezuela the 51st fucking state. Maybe Puerto Rico or DC, definitely Puerto Rico. She wouldn't have talked about invading Greenland or actually thought about doing it, or Cuba, or making Canada the 51st state, which again, Canada and Venezuela is the 51st state. Whenever Trump brings that up, it's hilarious. Number one, if we made Canada the 51st state, it would be 3 states, not 1. The provinces would be added as states separately because of how their governance is working. And all 3 of them would be expecting national health care. So work that shit out with 2 new senators from 3 new Canadian states. And there goes the Republican control of the Senate for the next 3 decades. Same thing with Venezuela. How do you think Tucker Carlson would feel about adding 29 million Venezuelans as brand new Americans? I'm sure he'd be for it. Okay.
I mean, Nick Fuentes is saying this right now, but can we just admit something?
Nope.
Nick Fuentes is not a conservative. He may be on the right, but he's not a conservative.
And there's a distinction, like how? Maybe define the terms.
Being on the right, I question that because
you don't even know what it means.
He kind of
because he's so wrong. Is that what you're trying to say?
appeals to strongman ideology.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it means to be on the right.
He just wants a strong leader. It's like he has this. He's very, very.
Oh, so that's why. Oh, I see. So that's why he doesn't like Trump anymore, because Trump is a weak, tiny-dicked, small-hand, cottage cheese-brained old fart who wears his diaper backwards sometimes. Is that so? That I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's why that's what you think Fuentes' reasoning would be in this case. Okay, I can see that. Again, maybe this is Fuentes' broken clock moment.
Very drawn to dictatorial leaders, whether it be Stalin, whether it be Hitler, whether it be other people that he feels just come in, take charge, and get things done. And he's not even particularly
make the trains run on time.
Concerned about what they get done.
You think he might? You know what I mean? I don't think he's, hoping that an African leader comes over here, takes over, right? Or a South American dictator comes up and finally somebody will just do something. I'm just guessing that he would push back
on a number of categories, as long as they're strong men
and obviously white. I mean, that would be I'm just saying that would be a key component, one would think, right? Yeah.
And so I'm not really interested in Fuentes' worldview or how he does this, because I think it's beyond the pale. But again, with Tucker and Candace, I'm looking at the expectations that they wanted for Donald Trump, and I'm thinking to myself,
how dare you?
You knew he wasn't going to be able to do everything you wanted.
No! This asshole said he could do everything on day one. No. Sorry, you don't get to back them away from his brags, asshole. That is not how this works. I know more about the generals than ISIS. I'll fix this in 2 seconds. Prices are going to come down immediately. 50% energy prices are going to drop. No new wars, no regime change wars, no wars in the Middle East, period. Fuck that. Those days are over. America first, baby. And then he comes, he can't break all of his promises at once. Slow your roll.
And you knew that he was still going to have to address foreign policy. And
sorry, starting a war that he said he wasn't going to start in the Middle East, where he said he wasn't going to start it, that will require regime change before it is over, which he said he wouldn't do, is foreign policy. Trying to cover his ass with tariffs that don't pass the sniff test legally, even amongst his right-wing controlled SCOTUS. That's foreign policy? That's him handling foreigners?
And it's perfectly reasonable to say, okay, I don't like what's going on in Iran right now.
What about the general rest of the Middle East, like the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman, the Persian Gulf, and in all the general areas, and the plane he got from Qatar, and his relationship with the Saudi royal prince, which, for the most part, I mean, I'm glad it's jovial. I guess it beats the alternative, but it does seem a little bit. I mean, seriously. I mean, for a dude who supposedly hates beards so much that J.D. Vance almost didn't get the job because he has one, and I'm not talking about Usha. I'm kidding. It's all right. He's not. No matter what everybody on the right is saying about J.D. Vance, I don't think he's gay. You can't be gay for a piece of furniture. That's not how it works. for nothing, baby. All right. So, it's hard to tell. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted this guy's whining about how much Trump likes MBS's physical person.
Okay. And yeah, I understand that there's always some criticism for what Israel did in Gaza, even though that I think what Israel did in Gaza was.
By the way, this guy normally does a show. CSL, back me up on this. He normally does a show in one of these kind of like leather chaired smoking lounge kind of sets that he has with a desk and all this shit with other people. And his oops, I might not like Megyn Kelly and Tucker and all those folks is too embarrassing. So I got to do this in a separate room in the house.
Gaza was a direct response to Hamas. And I think when you really dig into the tactics, techniques, and procedures used by the IDF, the vast majority of them are justified. I look at this and I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, tactics aren't the problem. It's the overall strategy. Hold on one second. Talk amongst yourselves. I think the TV's a little loud in the next room, and I'd left it on. I want to, if Summer needs to nap, I don't want to bug her. Hold on. Got it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. You know, life stuff. Anyways, this guy's criticizing other maggots, and therefore he has to do it in isolation away from his friends. And
Okay, well, we all know Hamas uses civilian targets. We all know Hamas will claim someone as a civilian when actually they're a fighter or a combatant. We all know Hamas doesn't wear uniforms or obey the laws of land warfare.
Right. And so you don't fight that kind of fire with fire. You hold a higher standard.
So why are we confused? And all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're going to ignore all that and we're just going to focus on Israel. And this is why I feel like this has become almost kind of like a woke brain bug. It's
Sorry, why is it woke? How is this a woke brain bug? You don't get to borrow like terms from the other side of the aisle for your fucking problem.
It's this idea that if I don't get everything I want instantly or in a quick amount of time, while completely ignoring the constitutional restraints put on the president, then the president's a bad guy and I'm a good guy. Or
Gee, it sounds like they got the TYT problem. Sucks to be you, buddy. All right, we're not going to be able to stay with this guy's whiny fest the rest of the time because I got to jump around more. Digging into just how full of shit these folks are. It's like a job in and of itself. Meanwhile, remember how Jesse Waters, Captain Eyebrows, was telling us how it's going to be over, and Trump's dropped his Trump card and is like a turd in a punch bowl. The Persian Gulf is going to open right up, and they're going to name it the Gulf of Trump and the Strait of Trump and all that shit and whatever. Well, apparently not, because now it's Waters. We could be on the road for more war. Yeah, no shit. We are. I don't know why anybody. I know I've been grinding on this for a bit, but that it really bugged me like a Friday week ago when everybody was like, "It's over." He said it was, and the market responded, and oil went down for a couple hours. He's like, "They agreed to everything, and they're going to give up their uranium and all this stuff." And everybody who paid more than a mild surface level of attention to this knew that was not just false; it was insane. And it was meant to manipulate the market late on a Friday, so we wouldn't have a shit weekend where the market where gas prices were high and the market was low over that window. He was just manipulating everybody, obviously. And this dickhead bought it. Stretch Ben Shapiro decided that was true. Evil Ross decided that Trump was telling the truth, and he did show after show after show about how Trump had basically brought this whole thing to a close. It was donezo, baby, and Trump's going to get everything he wanted. Well, apparently not.
Fox News alert, wheels up. Air Force One's on the way to Beijing. The commander-in-chief preparing for a high-stakes meeting with Xi Jinping.
Is he really preparing? I think he's going there. He's sleeping.
China's already rolling out the red carpet.
Sorry, over top of these three assholes?
Because the president's bringing the dream team. Rubio.
Sorry, this is the dream team. This would be a nightmare. Can you imagine having night terrors, imagining these three dickheads standing at the foot of your bed? I mean, I wouldn't worry too much because I don't care who you are. We have elderly people in the chat room who could take all three of these assholes at the same time.
Rubio, Hegseth, and Scotty B. Rubio's been
Scotty B. Oh, you mean Scott Bessent? Sure. The guy who used to work for George Soros and helped him short the pound that almost wrecked the British economy. Did more damage to it than any wave of migrants could ever do.
Banned and sanctioned by the Chinese for 6 years, and they just lifted it. He's clear. And the president's bringing the best and brightest. 16 CEOs, including from Apple, Boeing, Goldman, and Visa, all flying west. Even Elon's making the trip. Should be just like the good old times.
The good old times. Yes, they can do rails of fucking ketamine and eat fast food.
POTUS says we make a lot of money with China and is using the trip as a big business opportunity.
Yeah, it's certainly not about national security or the safety or health of the American people. He'll probably, you know what? His idea of a deal probably will be, look, I've got a great idea, Xi. You're my friend. We've worked together. I trust you implicitly. You're a great leader with a pretty sweet iron fist. Make a fist. Okay, now go slowly and gently and use lube. But I've got an idea. We'll give you the new, latest, and greatest chips, and you up the amount of fentanyl precursors that you send into the country so we can get rid of some of these redneck assholes that I needed them to vote for me, but now I don't need them anymore.
But the two will have a lot to talk about. AI, Taiwan,
2019,
and obviously Iran.
We're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good to be.
He's been relatively good.
Honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problem. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem, and he's been a friend of.
Yeah, that's because somebody in your administration, probably Tulsi, gave them the heads up, and they stored 1 billion barrels of oil in expectation of this. Now, if it goes on a little bit longer, they're going to burn through that shit. That's when it's going to get dicey. That's why he's been summoned.
We get along with, and I think we can see that good things are going to happen. This is going to be a very exciting trip. A lot of good things are going to happen.
Beijing's economy is showing some cracks, and without their top two oil proxies, Iran and Venezuela, the Chinese are getting a little desperate, and they may even offer us a little help with the gay Ayatollah. But President Trump says, don't bother.
Also, this is an odd dig for him to make constantly, but why?
Bother.
No, I don't think we need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it peacefully or otherwise.
The generals prefer otherwise. They're saying the Iranians just drove past a major off-ramp. We could be on the road to more war and be.
Oh, you mean because you're showing file footage of the underground missile assembly plants that they have and storage areas that are still secure and still have not been destroyed and still exist. The 30 out of 33, like missile bases that are along the Strait of Hormuz that still exist. The 70 to 80% of their missile capacity that still exists. Again, basically baiting the U.S. into dropping a bunch of bombs in areas where they knew they would and moving the shit before it happened.
NBC reporting that the president already has a name if he restarts bombing again. Operation Sledgehammer.
You can have an aeroplane flying if you bring your blue sky back. All you do is call me.
Time's running.
That's a naughty song, by the way.
Out for peace.
It's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They will not have a nuclear weapon.
Which I thought we obliterated last year. I'm so tired of saying
that. They know that. They've agreed to that.
No, they haven't.
And then that's not what they said to me when it came to we don't play games.
When it came to paper, said to me when it came to paper, was what he was going to say. And he bailed on it, not because said to me when it came to paper is a stupid sentence, which it is, but because I think he lost the word paper halfway through.
They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
The president called Iran's latest proposal unacceptable. And now the ceasefire is on life support. 47 might have to break the negotiation stalemate.
According to regional sources that I talked to this morning, the domestic pressure on the regime is increasing each and every day, and they view this,
in theory,
broadly as something called death by 1,000 cuts. They believe that President Trump has a variety of options on the table moving
they do, and those would be
forward that could damage the Iranian regime further on a military level that would make it even more difficult for those in Tehran to rebuild after the war.
Reports say the president's considering a resumption of major combat operations. The Pentagon says they are locked and loaded.
We have a plan to escalate.
Yeah, that's what they always say. This, again, this is like somebody washed Rumsfeld in cheap soap and he got a little puffy.
If necessary, we have a plan to retrograde if necessary. We have a plan to shift assets. Certainly in
to retrograde?
This setting, we wouldn't.
So we're going to use astrology?
Reveal what the next step may be, considering the gravity of the mission that the president is undertaking to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear bomb.
On the menu, a special ops mission to snatch Iran's uranium.
A special ops mission. That would be commonly referred to as boots on the ground, fuckwad.
In the last 48 hours, both Trump and the Israelis have toyed around with the idea.
Yeah, they're just toying with it. You know, it's just a thing. I don't know.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
By divine intervention. We have people who are specialists in levitating.
You go in and you take it out.
With what? Special forces from Israel? Special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but the president... What?
Well, what else do you have? Ferries flying helicopters?
President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there.
Whoa! President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there. Well, you know what? Both of you have a great time. I think this is a great idea. I'm for it. This is the best plan I've heard in a month and a half. Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump, 2 shovels and a dream. Just send these fuckers in and just like an Ishtar remake. They can just dig their way across the fucking desert looking for glow-in-the-dark dust.
The Pentagon just revealed the location of a top secret submarine.
Which is obviously not top secret. Its location was, but this is obviously an attempt to frighten Iran into thinking that when Trump said last week, you're going to see a giant glow in Iran, what he meant was we're going to nuke them. And to prove his point, he had one of our nuclear submarines surface in the area.
Capable of launching nuclear missiles. The Ohio-class sub's docked in Gibraltar, and its Trident II ballistic missiles can hit targets over 4,500 miles away. The Pentagon never discloses the locations of their nuclear subs, and they just did.
Gee, it's almost treasonous.
Hours after the Iranians sent us that crummy proposal. On the ground, the military...
Yes, Operation Crummy Proposal is why we're going to nuke a city full of civilians in Iran.
Military's training robo-dune buggies with mounted machine guns. It's next-gen stuff.
No, it's current-gen stuff. Next-gen is if they were autonomous. These are remote control. This is, you ever seen a remote control car, Jesse? The one you wanted for Christmas but never got, so you're taking it out on the rest of the world? That's what that is. It's not a Terminator car.
They were just seen in Morocco. Similar terrain to Iran. And we're also going to start arming Apache
almost that entire area is similar terrain to Iran.
Helicopters with their own drones. Look at that. Also in the skies, our B-1 bombers are conducting training missions. And here are the Super Hornets and Growlers launching from the USS Lincoln.
Very exciting. Yes, airplane and military things. If you squint, it looks like UFOs.
General Keane says we might have to pull the trigger.
We know the regime is likely going to survive even if we return to combat operations, but we would want it to be so weakened that it's vulnerable to collapse. I think we've given negotiations truly a test of time to see if it would work, and it's not going.
We bullshitted long enough.
Going to work, and my judgment is the best thing to do is go back and finish what we started.
The UAE's jumping into.
Come on, baby, finish what you started. It's incomplete.
Reports say they've been carrying out secret strikes on Iran. They hit an oil refinery last month. And Reuters is reporting that the Saudis got off the sidelines. In retaliation to Iranian aggression, the kingdom launched missiles inside the mainland. You know it's bad when the Jews and Arabs are on the same page.
I think that's the end times, which I think we all have to pay attention and watch for. Is that true? Yeah.
Keep an eye out for the end times.
All right, I will.
Iranians still talking a big game, though. The parliament speaker says this: our armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response. Mistaken decisions will always lead to mistaken results.
Which is, I'm sure it translates better.
The Iranians still haven't.
It sounds better in Farsi.
Haven't even broken through our wall of steel. The embargo's already turned around 65 ships.
Wow, you're kidding me. Our military is able to dissuade civilian ships with no arms to turn around? That's amazing.
And economic fury is squeezing the IRGC's oil pipeline to the Chinese. Bessent just slapped on more sanctions. Raising Cane?
No, he didn't. He put the sanctions we took off back on.
Says the Iranians are feeling it.
They are absolutely feeling that pressure, not just from the blockade, as the Secretary talked about, but the continuation of sanctions that Treasury and others have put on there, and we retain a range of military options.
The Democrats, though, they say we're losing.
You've achieved a series of tactical successes, but are on the verge of a strategic loss, because we are now negotiating.
I just think it's so foolish. Here we are in a committee in the United States Senate, 74 days in, and you're talking about strategic loss. We have the ability to
74 days in to a 2-week war.
Defeat a 47-year threat of a pursuit of a nuclear weapon.
Also, 47 years? Then why the fuck didn't Trump run on this? Maggots still aren't able to answer this question. If this has been a threat for 47 years and Trump is finally going to handle it, why didn't he run on it? Why didn't, instead of saying no new wars, no regime change wars, none of that, go, look, I'm not going to start anything, but except one thing, Iran. Once I get in there, we're fucking them up. But because he wouldn't have gotten elected, because maggots wouldn't vote for him.
We have more leverage than we've ever had. We've had incredible battlefield successes, and you're talking about a strategic loss?
Yes. Tactical wins, that's what you're talking about. Battlefield successes, those are tactical. Strategic is the results that you're after.
Democrats, like the Iranians, are begging for a stalemate. And
well, all right. Begging for a stalemate is gibberish. Like, there's not really an answer to it. The idea is, so we want this to grind on, is the idea?
Media, well, they just can't keep up.
You are the media.
Mr. President, you promised to bring inflation down. It's now at its highest level in 3 years. Are your policies not working?
No,
What's
my
happening?
policies are working incredibly. If you go back to just before the war, for the last 3 months, inflation was at 1.7%. Now, we had a choice. Let these lunatics have a nuclear weapon. If you want to do that, then you're a stupid person, and you happen to be. I mean, I know you very well.
The markets are...
It's so funny. It's great. Better than answering the question, though. And also, the 1.7... hold on. Well, let's look at that. That little term right there. Hold on one second. Let's see. We're going to go back to here. There you go. Let's see. We're gonna choose to go to. Yeah, the 3 months before, inflation was 2.4% in January, 2.4% in February. This is before we started. And then let's see. Bank forecast 3.1% Yeah, core PCE is roughly 3.1% for Q1 of 2026, so higher than. The 1.7% number that he's talking about was GDP growth forecasts, not inflation data. RSM, for example, explicitly lowers its forecast for U.S. GDP growth in 2026 to 1.7%. So no, the inflation, here you go. Inflation in Q1 of 2026, January, February, March. And we started this in February, so you can include, I guess, December, which still isn't, it's the fourth quarter of last year. And still was obviously, it was not 1.7% in December. Let me look at that directly. December inflation 2025. See what that was. 2.7%. Yeah. Okay. So here's where Trump thinks it was 1.7%. This is his response to this. Just for the record, let's just straighten this shit out. Okay. So U.S. headline CPI is running well above 1.7 going into and through Q1 2026. Year-over-year CPI was 2.4% in January 2026. Now, they were proud of that at the time because it had been 2.8% or 2.7, and they were using this as an example that it was coming down. But it never got below 2. That's just fucking nonsense. And it was going back up because it was seasonally adjusted, whatever. So it stayed around 2.4% in February. Then it jumped 3.3% because of, as reported by BLS and summarized in financial press coverage. This is largely because of the war and gas prices going up 3.3%. A Bank of America forecast has core PCE at roughly 3.1% overall. So combined, because, split with the first 2 months that were lower, but after the war, 3% inflation plus in the first quarter of Q1 of 2026. Where 1.7% is actually showing up. This is where Trump actually gets the number. That number appears quite clearly in GDP growth forecast, not in inflation data. RSM explicitly lowers its forecast for U.S. GDP growth in 2026 to 1.7%. That's where he saw that number because he is stupid. All right, this is... back to here.
Markets are stomaching all of this. The Dow is up today. Wages are up even after that hot inflation report because Iran closed the strait.
By the way, that will track inflation higher. Wage growth, especially in certain industries, will put more money into the circulation, and that will bring. That's why Warsh, even if Trump wants him to, will not be able to lower the interest rate when he gets into the Fed because it's not warranted.
But the price of crude is still down.
It will cause more inflation.
From 2 weeks ago, and the president says this all ends soon, and it only ends in one way.
We're either going to make a deal or they're going to be decimated.
That's 2 ways, but okay.
One way or the other, we win.
The president's heading into China in high spirits. Next 48 hours.
High spirits? Did you see him walking down the steps? He was mortified.
Will be huge. The United States is prepared for anything.
No, we're clearly not.
We've been wargaming with all our Pacific allies all spring and just announced Space Force, alongside America's space allies, just completed a joint plan for conducting orbital warfare by the end.
Great. Awesome. Jesus loves me. This orbital warfare. Finally, the crossbow project, because a good offense is the best defense.
Into the year. And we're selling Taiwan $25 billion in weapons in case the Chinese get frisky.
Frisky is the word.
We're going to turn that little island.
By the way, how will that work out in the meeting?
Into a little porcupine. Whatever happens, we're dressed for success. Rubio slipped into a Nike sweatsuit on Air Force One. It's the same outfit that Maduro rocked when we nabbed him.
Right, and nobody could tell if that was a troll or on purpose. Or just kind of, that's what he's got. They shop in the same fucking store. Now, Hegseth was not getting all sunshine and roses from the right wing, or from the MAGA sphere around him, especially when he went in front of the Senate. Apparently, Miss Lindsay was in quite the tither. I do declare. She actively said to him, "You failed, sir. You have failed, sir. You failed." Lindsey Graham rips Democrats. Obama will fail you. Stop Iran from being a nuclear threat. He's very upset. He's going to be all mad that we wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for y'all Democrats with your stupid deal that Trump tore up.
Thank you. I just want to start off with saying that these military operations against Iran have been spectacular. In a matter of months, we have degraded the largest state sponsor of terrorism beyond what I thought was possible, probably more.
Why?
More to come.
Also, why would you not think it was possible with a $1 trillion military budget? Why? Why would you not think?
Ms. Secretary, 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. Do we all agree that's what Iran has buried somewhere?
In this format, some of that should be classified, so I wouldn't comment on the exact amount of anything.
Okay, well, it's just pretty well known. They brag about it.
But in a classified setting.
Is it possible they could have 60% highly enriched uranium without them cheating in the past?
Yes.
We know.
Also, they didn't have to cheat. Trump tore up the agreement in the first year, late in the first year, beginning of the second year, whatever it was, of his first term.
In every context of what Iran has undertaken, they've lied and cheated.
The answer is no.
The answer is actually yes. They've had plenty of time to enrich uranium since Trump tore up the JCPOA. Period. This is horseshit.
Everything that Obama and Biden did was designed to keep it to a civilian nuclear program. There is no way in hell they can have 60% highly enriched uranium unless they cheat. So
yes, they are. How long the fuck do you think it takes?
Everything y'all did failed.
Wait, if they can make a fucking nuclear bomb in 2 weeks from not having one, how long do you think it takes them to enrich uranium? Dude, it's been almost a decade.
Failed. And you want to criticize? You failed.
Ouch.
You allowed Iran to be a threshold nuclear nation.
No, they didn't. They had a plan to stop it, and Trump ripped it up. And then went, I'll make a new deal with the people that worked really hard to make a deal with us in the first place and didn't like it, but stomached it anyways because we had everybody buy in, including Russia. And I'm going to make a new deal with them, and I won't tear that one up.
Everything you did failed. Missiles, Diego Garcia. Did they shoot missiles at Diego Garcia, General Kane, the Iranians?
Yes, sir. They shot a few.
Under the protocols we had in place, were they supposed to be able to do that?
Without reviewing the fine print, I believe the answer is no.
No, they weren't. You failed.
What protocol? Do you mean the ones that Trump tore up almost a decade ago?
There. You failed to stop Iran from being a nuclear threshold nation.
A threshold.
You failed to stop Iran from having missiles that could go thousands of miles. Why should we listen to you?
Because they didn't fail. They crafted the deal that stopped it, and Trump tore it up. Asshole. He tore it up. So he owns everything after it was torn up, especially the last 3 years he was in office in his first term. And the first year, when apparently most of the time this didn't fucking matter until the Epstein debacle blew up in his face. And then all of a sudden, we got to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It's go time.
Bottom line here, China. Does China buy 90% of Iranian oil, Ms. Secretary?
China buys a very large percentage of
Okay,
Iranian
90% is pretty large.
It's not 90%. It's of 90% of it goes to Asia. China gets about 40 to 60%, depending on how much they do from Iran and that from that area. They also buy a bunch from fucking Russia.
So does China are they the largest purchaser of Russian oil and gas?
Singular, yeah. But they're not the largest. There are other states. South Korea is now able to buy it. Trump gave them a break, and then Biden took it off. And then, Trump got caught, and then he turned it off, and then it got turned back on. Then as they're back and forth, and then as an attempt to make a new deal, and of course that went away. And then of course, where is it? The Philippines, Cambodia, India.
I would imagine they're up there, Senator.
They are. They're the largest. So President Trump, when you go to China,
they're also the largest by population. They're also the largest by landmass. What's your fucking point?
Realize that the person you're talking to is propping up Russia and Iran. I appreciate what you've done in Iran. I appreciate what you're trying to do to end the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Do you agree with me, Mr. Secretary, that of all the countries on the planet, China could have the most influence of ending this war if they chose to?
I think the most influence is in President Trump's hands and what he decides to do, and he'll
Oh, yeah, not ending it, dummy. Yes, you're right. The sun shines out of his ass. He squirts out deals like diarrhea. You're a genius.
What if China stopped
But
buying?
ultimately, China has a lot of leverage. You're right.
Yeah, they did. What if they stopped buying 90% of oil from Iran? That's not President Trump. That's up to China. Do you support putting tariffs on China if they continue to buy Russian oil and gas?
It's not his job. He's with the Department of War, and that's insane enough. Why would you want to put this asshole in charge of trade policy? It should be in the hands of the House and the Senate, namely yours. So who gives a fuck?
Tariffs is not my lane, but anything we can do to put pressure on people, I usually support.
Well, do you believe that when we put pressure on India by a 25% tariff for buying Russian oil, they kind of backed off?
I would say I've had a front row seat to the efficacy of tariff policy, yes.
Yeah, I think it works, guys, and
It didn't.
we're on the breakout here in a minute of having a bill that would give the president ability to tariff the largest purchasers of Russian oil and gas, and I hope he will use it. So I just want to, Pakistan. Are you aware of reports
You just want a Pakistan. Who doesn't?
that Pakistan are allowing their bases to be used to
Just ask for consent from Stan, is all I ask.
park Iranian aircraft, General Kane?
Sir, I've seen one report on that.
Well, is it accurate?
Sir, I think based on the variety of classification matters.
Let me just say, do you agree if it is accurate, that is sort of inconsistent with it being a peace mediator?
We saw this before, by the way. This is the part where he flipped out about Pakistan allowing Iran to park planes there so they don't get destroyed in the bombing. Which again, with friends like these, who needs enemas? Hit the like, share the show. It's Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Let's see. 175 likes. We can get to 200. We can do it. Come on. And we've only got 18 thumbs down. Come on. We can get to 20. Come on, maggots. Try a little harder. Also, Marion, hello. Hi, Marion. How are you? Hope you're having a great day. Absolutely. And then with Trump math, you can rearrange the letters in Donald and get idiot. This is true. Is it more like Trump vocabulary? But I feel you. Thanks, Tom. Hit the like, share the show, patreon.com/Hal Sparks, and of course, super chats are always welcome. Bits on stars on Facebook, bits on Twitch. Any way you can help out, greatly appreciated always. Now, there's a lot of maggots eating themselves. This should not be surprising at all. But there was apparently, according to Newsmax, somebody, one of the senior budget analyst and funding manager at the White House was caught shit-talking Trump on an open mic or on a hidden camera. Owie. This is Benjamin Elliston. I don't know what he said. Let's find out. Hidden camera catches White House staffer criticizing Trump. No. Criticism. That's a non-starter. We have to anything other than he's the fittest, greatest, smartest human being ever to live. And if he didn't eat buckets of shit, he would live to be 1,000.
We have to get rid of Trump. Seriously. He's a mess. He's gonna go for everybody. Yeah. Everybody. We gotta get rid of him. Honestly.
Yeah. Jarrett.
Ouch. That's not beating around the bush.
Stepman is a columnist at the Daily Signal, and Deneen Borelli is a Newsmax contributor.
Both of them know it's true.
The White House responded to the video saying this
individual has been placed on administrative leave while we conduct a review and investigation. He has no direct access to the president or senior staff. Of course not, because Trump is not allowed to interact with anybody who doesn't blow smoke straight up his ass, except reporters. And he only attacks the women that do that that cross him. You'll notice that about him, like when he calls somebody stupid or weak or a dumb question, it's always a woman. Anybody that didn't stand out? Okay. That is also because he's a big gaping anus and a weakling. And does not work at the White House campus. Such views expressed by the individual are not reflective of patriots who admirably serve in the administration. Jesus Christ. Did this come from the White House or fucking Waco?
This individual has been placed on administrative leave while we conduct a review and investigation. He has no direct access.
He has been kicked off the pineapple farm, and there'll be no Kool-Aid for him.
Access to the president or senior staff and does not work on the White House campus. Such views expressed by the individual are not reflective of patriots who admirably serve in the administration. If he's not loyal to the president, Deneen, why not just fire him?
Because maybe somebody should welcome disloyal people because they might tell you the truth when everybody else is just sucking up to you. That would be the primary one. You'd want people around that don't just tell you the sun shines out of your ass. It's a theory, unless, of course, you're a giant weakling, which, of course, Trump is.
That's the question of the day. This is beyond the deep state, and this is only one or maybe two.
The deep state. The White House hired him.
Two people that we know of publicly. How many more are there? And they're in.
Oh, they're lurking around. People who don't believe that Trump and the land are one.
High-level positions, senior budget analysts, and there's the special assistant to the president with domestic abilities and information. What are they doing with the information that they have access to?
Dun, dun, dun. What? Don't get me started on Joe Kent.
That's what I want to know.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good thing this came out, but how many more are there?
Yeah, Jared, Alston also criticized Trump's leadership style. He called him erratic. He called him scary.
All of these are true. So far, when does this guy run for office?
Listen to this part.
Yeah, his decisions are so erratic, you would think he drinks. He doesn't drink. And that's what makes it so dangerous, that someone could be of sound mind and body, totally coherent, could just be so reckless in your decision making.
Yeah.
Well, he's also not of sound mind. I mean, these dumb ideas have always been with him, but he's also.
That's scary.
Okay, so you get kind of a feeling like someone's spying on you, secretly recording this. You think you're out with a friend just chatting, and you say stuff. But should he be entitled to his own opinion?
No. What do you think this is, America?
No, it's interesting. I mean, this man chose to work for the president. I mean, he's there. He has a job in the administration, serving the American people, serving.
Right, but he might be giving good advice, and the White House isn't taking it because Trump is a fucking nutter. That's, you can take a job and go, holy shit, this place is a den of vipers. And yet, if I leave, a viper will take over. So maybe I should stick around and try to do as good work as I can. But everybody else here is fucking insane. I think we've all been there at least once.
Serving President Trump, and yet he's bashing him publicly. I realize D.C. maybe he's had a few too many drinks, but actually this exposes a lot of truth of what he actually stands for. So I think we saw more of this in Trump.
What does he stand for in that you heard? That someone should make rational decisions and should not be erratic and be all over the place and a fucking mess? Because I honestly, we didn't hear what it isn't because they have a policy disagreement. Right? Specifically, it's because Trump's fucking brain is hash browns.
Trump 1.0, where there were.
Oh, we're 2 away from 200 thumbs up. We can do it. And we met our thumbs down. So you guys can't let the thumbs down guys beat you. You got to fire it up. Just hit it and subscribe, will you? Oh, wait, I have a button. Hold on. I made a button. See if it works. Does it actually work? Oh, yeah, there we go. Hey. Look, and the little animated arrows. I worked hard. All right.
where there were more people who were opposed to the president's agenda going against him from the D state. I think we've seen less of that.
They're not in the deep state, fuckwad. This guy isn't a lifer. Trump hired a bunch of people, and they are all waking up to the fact that he's a lunatic, and his brain is fucking mashed potatoes.
This time, but there's still individuals who, even though they're working for the president, decide to go against him. Frankly, if you have those opinions, you should just resign. You should just leave and get another job. You shouldn't work for this administration, but that's not what these people do. They want to carry out their own agenda as opposed to the president's.
Or they're trying to advise him on stable reality, and they're afraid if they leave, there will be no stable reality at all present.
But wait, there's more. Ellison went up further to criticize the president's foreign policy, saying,
wow, and what's to criticize there?
He's intentionally inflating the price of oil to enrich himself and family members. Listen.
Gee, it's maybe he has spent time on the White House campus.
The president knows that he affects how people react to the stock market. So one of the things that it looks like is going on and going on a lot is insider trading. Like, for instance, with the war going on in Iran, the price of oil is expensive.
Was he talking about Nancy Pelosi or President Trump? I'm sorry.
President Trump, actually.
Sorry. But Deneen, again, I'm surprised that someone like this who
got snagged on his own joke. It didn't land the way he thought, so he had trouble jump starting his next thing. Speak up, blessed are the cheesemakers. Thanks, Vinny Demon. Blessed are the meek. Oh, that's nice of getting something. They've had a hell of a time.
who apparently does not like the president would be working for the president, and to
they're not working for the president. People in the administration work with the president under him, but they work for the American people. That's how our country works. You fucking tool.
Jared's point, you know, why doesn't he leave? Like, why is he still there? Is it
because he's worried that Trump is already surrounded by enough lunatics and somebody's got to present details or data that is actually based on reality? That would be my guess.
A power trip for him.
Well, who knows what he's going to do with the information that he has and his ability to come out the way that he didn't come out, but he got outed. Maybe he's going to write a book. There's going to be a movie deal. You never know, because with
there'll be a movie deal. Like my dinner with Andrea. No offense, Andrea. There's a reference to my dinner with Andrea. Never mind.
The deep state and those who despise his president, they try to make money off of him. That's what.
And Trump never tries to do that off the taxpayer. How dare they?
They do, with the negative press and the capability to do so.
Sorry, real quick. Why would they be able to make money off the president if he's as popular and beloved as you say he is? How is that a fucking industry? Can you imagine if there was a Biden hate industry that you could literally cash in on rather than just kind of like run-of-the-mill hating on Democrats shit? If you could wear like If you could go to the press and just get a book deal, just shitting on them, Miranda Devine.
Do so.
All right, and then again, womp womp. Now there was a meeting of the fraud team, and I'd like to show you a little snippet. This is JD Vance bringing the Riz with his newly gray sideburns. The front of his beard has got color. His hair has color, but his sideburns right here are almost completely white now. This has got to be a natural transition to gray because I don't know anybody who would do this on purpose. Tell me if it sticks out to you the way it sticks out to me, but here you go. Oh, this is hold on, let me go back. Man, it's just exciting. They don't even get to play Lee Greenwood for him. He doesn't have a Kid Rock song. Bow to down, diggy wiggy digga booga.
Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Good. Good to see you all. So as you know, the president just landed in China a few hours ago. I always bore everybody with an anecdote right out of the gate. Why in the world would this stop? Hold on. I'm going to close this window and close this window. Miss Lindsay,
And then we'll go back over to here. Whoops, that's Tulsi. Back up. There we go. This is a long video, so it's taking a long time to load, I guess.
And then instead, we're going to use those resources ourselves because we're actually taking the fraud issue very.
Okay, so he jumped back to here.
Today, actually, a number of big announcements, and looking forward to hearing from Andrew and Dr. Oz and Kim about that. But let me just say that.
By the way, the Kim woman he's referring to is standing right over here, and she's the only one that actually does any work. The rest of these assholes are just standing around. They like have the woman do all the work, and we'll just take credit for it.
We've been hard at work over the last several months.
Definitely not smart at work.
Trying to make sure that we take care of the people's money and
trying to make sure. How about just making sure?
To make sure that the services that exist for the betterment of our fellow citizens
that Democrats created,
whether they're low-income kids who need access to food resources,
which Republicans fight against all the time,
whether they're low-income families who need access to medical benefits,
which also Republicans fight against and Democrats push for, even in areas where those people don't vote for Democrats.
Those programs are protected for the people who actually need them, that they don't exist to enrich fraudsters, but they exist for the American people.
But enough about Florida.
For whom Congress has said they're entitled. And that's exactly what this fraud task force is about. One of the things that I thought going into it, but that I've learned about fraud is that it always has two fundamental victims. The first.
Oh boy, this is, let me guess. It hurts the people who were supposed to get the funds, and it hurts the people who pay for it, the American taxpayer.
First victim is the American taxpayer.
Right.
Who is generously paid into these programs in an effort to give their fellow citizens a leg up. But it also.
Well, that would be the Democrats. The Republicans do it because they feel like they're forced to, and any chance they get, they try to shut those programs down.
Also has as its victim.
But they use them in red states more than blue states. That's the other thing, too.
The people who are meant to benefit from these programs.
Poor people in red states, by and large.
Who are not able to benefit, or maybe are benefiting less because of what a disaster some of the fraud has wrought in these.
Now, is the fraud by and large, does anybody think that the fraud by and large is people, individuals, the people who get the services, cheating the government, lying about their own needs, and stealing Medicare and Medicaid stuff, claiming they have illnesses they do not have, and living off those benefits? Is that, by and large, the extent of the fraud, or even a statistically significant amount of it? Like voter fraud, this idea that all these illegals are voting when they clearly are not. We could barely get our own citizens to vote, therefore, much less get a bunch of people who might get thrown in jail to try it.
These programs, and let me just give you a few concrete examples.
Here we go. Concrete, that's what we've been looking for. That's all I'm asking for. Come on now. Concrete examples. Here we go.
Of what we're worried about, of what we're
concrete examples of what you're worried about. Jesus Christ.
Targeting, and also what we're going to do to solve some of these.
Tell me what worries you, JD. Okay.
These problems. So, first, we're announcing that the federal government is deferring $1.3 billion in Medicaid reimbursements from the state of California.
Okay. No, they're not. They're cutting off anti-fraud like law enforcement funding to go after that the funds that the state would use to go after fraud in the state. That's what they're cutting. They're not cutting the benefits of the actual people. But it's sure as hell because JD Vance is a dipshit. It sounds like that. It sounds like because maggots like the idea, red meat for the maggots, they like the idea that people on Medicare or Medicaid in California will get fucked. That's why he says it that way.
$1.3 billion in
$1.3 billion from California in Medicare reimbursement funds.
Medicaid reimbursements from the state of California.
Again, this is not stuff that goes to people who are on Medicare and Medicaid.
And the simple reason is because the state of California has not taken fraud very seriously. And because of that, we see a lot of the consequences that I just referenced. And again, let me
you didn't just reference any.
Let me highlight the fact that this really is two separate victims. So there are California taxpayers and American taxpayers who are being defrauded because California isn't taking...
Wait, Californians are Americans? When did this shit start?
Its program seriously. But also you have people who've been prescribed medications that they don't even need. Sometimes they've had drugs put into their bodies that they don't need because fraudsters have actually encouraged false prescriptions and false administration of medications. So think about this. You're just a person trying to go see a doctor.
Okay, real quick. This is medical fraud, not Medicare and Medicaid fraud. Like, this is fucked up. Also, what they're really talking about is medicines that they give to old people in old folks' homes who aren't consciously aware. And the idea that those drugs actually go into those patients is kind of stupid. A lot of times they're just diverted and stolen. They like, oh my God, you guys are giving this drug to all these old people here. Why the fuck are you dumping Viagra into their veins when they clearly don't need it? Because they're spry. No, they're actually not giving it to the people. They're billing for it, saying they're giving this particular drug to the patients in their care at a hospice facility or something like that, and then selling it again to somebody else. This happens all over Florida, and he doesn't bring it up.
Assume that your doctor is doing the right thing, but these fraudulent healthcare providers are getting rich by giving people medications they don't even need.
How would they get rich if they pay for if you're getting paid to get, you got to buy the drug and give it to somebody, right? So they're either not giving it to them, which they should if they're billing for it, or justify it, or they are, again, like I said, reselling it, which is more of it. But how is that ever the patient's fucking fault? Ever. And why would you punish people? And he's not, by the way. They want to make it sound like they're punishing people who are on Medicare and Medicaid because that gives Republicans a hard-on. But this is not what's occurring.
It's a defrauding of the American taxpayer, but it's a violation of the trust that should exist between every American and the people who prescribe the medications. That's one thing that we want to...
That would be a doctor, I'm presuming?
We're targeting, and this is why we're taking this action, is because we want California to get serious about this fraud.
And the way we're going to do that is by cutting all the funding that they use to look for fraud. I'm not kidding.
The second thing I want to talk about, and it requires a little bit of background explanation, is that
Here we go. Deep reads. We're going to figure this out. Here we go. Background information. This is complicated, but you'll get it, people.
We're going to very aggressively encourage the states to take Medicare fraud more seriously. So I think
you're right. That was very complicated. You're going to very aggressively encourage states to take Medicare fraud more seriously. Excellent. Will this come in the form of a strongly worded letter or your removal of funds that they would use to go after the fraud from the state? Okay.
I think a lot of you...
By the way, it's a reimbursement too. So you only have to reimburse the funds that they would spend on this in the first place.
Understand, but for those of you watching at home who don't appreciate this,
so by the way, you're doing the math in your head right now. So if they're refusing to reimburse the funds that California spent going after fraud, which is $1.3 billion, that means California spent $1.3 billion going after Medicare and Medicaid fraud, and the federal government is not going to pay them back for doing it. They spent that money on law enforcement. They spent that money on, the Attorney General's office and investigations and stuff going into this, and they're not going to reimburse it from the state or from the federal government to the state because that money was already spent, because they're not going after fraud hard enough with the money they already spent going after fraud.
The Medicaid system that exists in the United States is really 50 separate systems. The federal government pays most of the Medicaid money, but then each of the individual states actually administers the Medicaid program. Now, we have red states and blue states that go after fraud aggressively, but we also unfortunately have some states, mostly blue states unfortunately, that do not take Medicaid fraud very seriously. So you
like Florida. Oh, right, shit.
Have what's called Medicaid Fraud Control Units, or MFCUs. These Medicaid fraud, these anti-fraud units within the Medicaid program, we generously, meaning the federal government generously gives these fraud control units many, many billions of dollars across the United States of America so that they can take Medicaid fraud seriously.
Over $50 billion? No. There's 50 states.
But let me just give you an example to highlight how absurd some of these Medicaid fraud programs are, because they're not actually being used at all.
Okay, so these Medicaid programs are not being used. What he means is the fraud prevention force from the federal government as opposed to the AGs of other states. Now, they're used more in red states because red states don't put together their own Medicare fraud corruption units the way big states with lots of money like California do on their own. And they don't need necessarily the federal government to do it. They have their own team. And instead of using whoever the federal government is sending in as part of the federal workforce, instead of sending those people, into the state, you're like, no, thanks, we got it. You can reimburse us for what the people we hire here. By and large.
This is a tool. This is a tool that we want the states to use, but unfortunately, a lot of states aren't using these tools at all.
Right. Except California, which is using $1.3 billion worth of those tools, and you are not going to reimburse them for it because California.
Let me highlight this with just a couple of separate statistics.
Separate statistics.
So, the Hawaii Medicaid the Hawaii Medicaid program has received billions and billions of dollars from the federal taxpayers. And of course, Hawaii taxpayers have paid in a lot of money into this program over the last years.
Okay, the Medicaid program, like all the people who get Medicaid, the human beings who
as well
rely on it for services and for their own health and all that. Okay. Billions and billions and billions and billions.
Guess how many convictions or indictments has Hawaii had over the last few years in its Medicaid fraud program?
Define last few years.
The answer is 0. Not a single indictment, not a single conviction, because
because it didn't happen in the state, because they were defrauded by a company in Florida, for example. So the federal government would go after those people, and it's not a federal indictment. It's a state indictment for fraudulent behavior within the state that they would go after.
Administrators of the Hawaii program just don't take it seriously. They don't think that fraud is a big enough problem. They don't care about protecting resources. They don't care about protecting that Medicaid program. So what does that mean? That means that if you're...
Well, I don't know. You're going to have to tell me how much fraudulent shit you found in Hawaii, right? Wouldn't that be necessary? Like, I get 0 convictions. Then you would give me examples of cases that they let slide, wouldn't you?
If you're committing fraud in Medicaid in Hawaii, at least up until now, hopefully now they're going to take it seriously, you have had effectively free reign from the government of Hawaii to commit as much fraud as you want. That is a complete disgrace.
Again, we're just to assume that because they've gotten billions of dollars for Medicaid, that there's got to be a lot of fraud.
In New York, which does a little bit better, but not by much, New York has had 9 indictments over the last year. 9 indictments. That's a $100 billion Medicaid program just in New York, and you've had 9 indictments. Indiana...
Right, for like billions of dollars, though. That's the point. Those are who they're going after.
Which has about a third of the population of the state of New York, has had more than 4 times as many indictments over the same period.
Yeah, but they're actually, smaller and more disparate because the state doesn't bring in that much stuff. And make make the case. Did New York go after 9 gigantic purveyors of fraud and spent all their money on that, as opposed to going after somebody who may or may not have a head injury that keeps them from being able to work individually? And did Indiana just go after some people just to make examples of them that cost the taxpayer almost nothing by comparison? Arguably, the court case against that person is more than what they were alleged to have defrauded, but they just want to make a show of it.
So does anybody here seriously think that the good people of Indiana are 12 times more likely to commit fraud than the people of New York? No, of course
not. Yeah, I am. I've spent time in Indiana. Clearly, that's a problem.
That's absurd. What is happening is that the people...
What's happening is Indiana's going after individuals, and by and large, New York is focusing on large fraudulent groups and that kind of shit. Out of the country, using Interpol and that kind of stuff, getting people who are defrauding people from fucking internet cafes in Cambodia.
And the leadership in New York are just not taking the fraud issue seriously. They're not using these anti-fraud control units to actually investigate and indict the fraud. So
well, again, if you haven't investigated and indicted them yourselves, how do you know they exist on the level that you're talking about? And also, what do you mean the last few years?
What are we going to do to fix that? Today,
nothing.
Today, we are sending across 50 Medicaid programs. We are sending letters that
a letter. Oh dear me. Bet it smells like lavender.
Will require them to show.
Will they have a big pretty stamp on it?
Show that they are effectively and aggressively prosecuting Medicaid fraud in their states. And if they do not aggressively prosecute Medicaid fraud,
what if there's not any, again, that's worth the lawsuit?
We are going to turn off the money that goes to these anti-fraud units. And I was
brilliant. Yes, if you're not going after the fraud, if you don't spend the money, we're not going to give you the money. This sounds like normal federal government budgeting to me.
Say a couple things about this.
That besides it being silly,
you may think, obviously, this is a Republican administration. We're all proud Republicans up here.
No, I don't think that at all. I think you're a bunch of robber baron oligarchs who are trying to rip everyone off before you fucking slide out the side door.
You may think that this is purely.
I don't think you're Republicans at all.
A red state or blue state issue. That's actually not true.
You're right. A lot of fraud happens in red states.
We see
organized fraud.
Medicaid fraud issues in Ohio, the state that I used to represent in the United States Senate. We also see Medicaid issues, fraud issues in a state like Maryland, which is obviously a very blue state. But both Ohio.
Why don't you bring up Florida? It's one of the biggest places.
Ohio and Maryland have worked with us to take this issue seriously. They've worked with the guys behind me. They've worked with our entire team to make sure that they take fraud seriously. Again, this does not have to be a red state or a blue state issue. This is just basic good government. However, states like California, states like Hawaii, states like New York have completely not taken the fraud issue seriously in the Medicaid program. And so for those states that refuse to get
citation needed, by the way. I don't know why we're supposed to just take his word for it. One would think that you'd have like a Minnesota example that you would give in the case of California or Hawaii or any of these things. But the problem is that they bring up the cases that they know about. These are either ongoing investigations in cases that are happening, and they will literally help the people who are guilty of the fraud get away with it if they open their fucking trap. And they can't present a case that hasn't been indicted because it's not a case unless you have some information the state doesn't have, in which case it's a federal case, so it's up to you anyways.
To get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And
let's listen to that sentence again. What?
That refuse to get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money.
If you refuse to get serious about fraud, we're going to turn off that anti-fraud money, which are reimbursements for the investigations you have already done into fraud.
And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well.
Namely, stuff that goes to actual human beings? No.
Our goal here is not to do that. We don't want to turn off any money. What we want to do is ensure that people are taking fraud seriously. We want to protect Medicaid. We want to protect Medicare. But
not if you ask Mike Lee, he wants to get rid of it. Republicans, by and large, want to get rid of it. Project 2025, they want to get rid of it.
We can't do that if the states that are administering those programs are allowing those programs to be fleeced by fraudsters. So we encourage, whether it's California and New York or Maryland or Ohio, we encourage people to work with us. We want to help you use technology and other tools to get rid of the fraud, to get to the root of the fraud. We want to help you, but we...
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Sweet of you.
Can only help these state programs if those state programs are willing to help themselves. So these letters are the...
We can only reimburse the money that's spent on fraud prevention if you spend the money for fraud prevention. And California spent $1.3 billion fighting fraud. And we're not going to reinforce it because we don't think they've been mean enough or gotten enough people. Notice he didn't bring up the number, the $1.3 billion in California. He brought up New York versus Indiana. He didn't bring up California. I wonder why. When you bring them up, if they're the primary case you're making.
The first step, the first effort to try to force these states to get serious about prosecuting fraud, and that's exactly what we're doing. Let me just talk about one final issue here.
Please get it over with.
We see a lot of fraud in the home health care and in the hospice care system. I think Dr. Oz will probably
Yes, Florida.
talk a little bit more about that. But again, you have to appreciate that this fraud issue is fundamentally theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs. Just last month, a California psychotherapist, a woman who had spent...
Okay. A California psychotherapist. Now, and he just led this off, home health care and hospice care. So this woman probably is defrauding everybody, right? Tell us the story, the anecdotal story of how millions upon bazillions of dollars this lady stole from dying old people, right? This seems to be the trend for this. Yeah. And by the way, Rick Scott, anybody?
Fundamentally, theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs.
Right. The people who need these programs. Go, JD Vance. Let's hear it. Champion the little guy.
Just last month, a California psychotherapist.
A California psychotherapist, which again, oxymoron.
A woman who had spent 40 years treating patients, helping patients,
and giving Viagra to old ladies and double billing the government, this awful woman.
Helping people deal with problems, found out that her Medicare program had been turned off.
Sorry, her Medicare program had been turned off. So she wasn't getting more money than she was supposed to get. She was getting less money, or in fact, no money. What the fuck? How is this your example? Think about, there's 340 million fucking people in this country. There's 44 million people in California. Your one example is a psychotherapist who paid her taxes for 40 years and worked with people all over the place, and her Medicare got turned off. What the fuck are these? What are you talking about? How is that the example? Back the fuck up. Wait.
A woman who had spent...
Hold on. This is fucking crazy. You're going to yank $1.3 billion from the state of California because they're not going after fraud hard enough, because the American taxpayers' money is being stolen by awful people, thrown down a well. These people are charging and overcharging and giving people drugs they aren't actually giving them, and keeping the cash, or whatever the fuck story is. And this is his example. This is it. Listen to this example. Fuck me. Maggots. Dig in. How is this an example of the taxpayers getting fleeced by fraud?
Fundamentally, theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs.
Right. Theft from the taxpayer and theft from people who need it. So they are taking funds that were meant for somebody, and they are stealing those funds. They're getting taxpayer money that should be going over here and keeping it for themselves, right? That's the premise. That's how all this fraud works so far. We got to put a stop to it because of America.
Just last month, a California psychotherapist, a woman who had spent 40 years treating patients, helping people deal with problems.
Nice lady, super lady, great.
Found out that her Medicare program had been turned off, that she did not have access to the resources that she had been paying into for her entire life. Why? Because a fraudster had stolen her identity and signed her up for healthcare services that she didn't need.
Yeah. Run that by me again.
Had stolen her identity and signed her up for healthcare services that she didn't need, and so she had been turned off of the healthcare services that she did need.
And this has to do with hospice and home health care and giant fraudsters like fucking how. This is identity theft, dumb fuck. Did it sign her up for a more expensive form of Medicare, so she was getting drugs mailed to her house and they're being stolen from the fucking mailbox? What are you talking about? This is idiocy. How is this an example? Meanwhile, Florida has like these hundreds of businesses that have these fucking post office box and strip mall addresses selling medical devices, wheelchairs and fucking respirators and all kinds of shit all over the country that never arrive, and they just keep the fucking money. But we're going to talk about one lady who had her identity stolen and was signed up in theory for I guess commercial insurance, and therefore was not qualified. Motherfucker.
This happens way too much in the United States of America.
Agreed, but what the fuck does that have to do with Medicare fraud? That lady had her identity stolen, dumb fuck.
And it happens because until recently, we did not have a government or an administration that actually took the fraud program and took anti-fraud prevention seriously.
Good God. You didn't prevent it, you dumb motherfucker. I don't even know how that shook out. Were you just going to assume you heard about it? Where'd you hear about it? Because the woman in California, it was probably one of the indictments that California did. That's the money you're not going to reimburse them for. What the fuck?
So let me just close with one.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, you should close now. That settles it. I feel so much better about this fucking millions, if not billions of dollars spent to fly these assholes all over the country to glad hand themselves for shit the state is doing. I thought we had enough of that with Kash Patel flying himself into fucking Utah after Charlie Kirk was killed so he can sniff rocks and go, I think the killer went that way, and blowing up the investigation and fucking with it even though it's a state murder trial. God damn these fuckers.
One final observation here. First of all, why are we doing this now? Why weren't we doing this 2 years ago? And
They do all the time.
Simple answer is because we didn't have a president and we didn't have an administration who took fraud seriously.
Jesus Christ. Trump took fraud seriously one time when he had to go to court and defend himself against, 35 charges, and he lost. He's legally a fraudster.
I want to thank the President of the United States.
That's why he's trying to water down what the word fraud means by setting up this fucking, blue ribbon committee.
I know he's busy in China.
No, he isn't. He just flew there and went straight to sleep after sleeping on the fucking plane. That's exactly right. Hold on. Somebody called it immediately. Give a thumbs up. Support the show if you would. I greatly appreciate it. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. The moron you know. JD Vance, everybody.
All of these efforts, all of these things that we're finding are because we have a president who has told us, take the fraud issue seriously, get to the root of it, and...
No, he hasn't. He wants you to call a bunch of other people's frauds so it waters down what fraud means, you dumbass. There's fraud everywhere. Why are you coming after me for fraud? I did a little bit of fraud. This is just private fraud between me and the bank. These people are fraudsters. There's fraud everywhere. But it's like Putin and we don't want to kill, Putin kills people. Well, we kill people too. You don't think we kill people? We kill people. Get off his back. That's what he does. He's an adjudicated rapist. It's the nicest thing you could say about his sexual habits.
And turn off
that the word adjudicated was thrown on the front of it. He started as a sex pest and graduated as a braggadocious sexual assaulter.
The money when we find out that money is going to fraudsters, so that's exactly what we're doing. But I just want to say that for me, and I think for a lot of people who are involved in this effort, this is very...
Oh, this is going to be his phony I came up from humble beginnings bullshit.
Personal.
Yes, because I grew up as J.P. Mandel, J.D. Vin Diesel in the town of Oconomowoc, Ohio, which you might not be able to find on any map, but totally exists, and I really did grow up there.
Because I'm not just the Vice President of the United States, I come from a family, and I grew up in a family where we sometimes benefited from these programs.
Sometimes?
The generosity of the American people is one of the most amazing things about our country. I think all of us, of course, just passed.
You mean Democratic voters? Because, again, maggots and Republican voters vote against this shit all the time, specifically because they look at all the people who need it as useless eaters. They all agree with Henry Kissinger.
Tax day. None of us like paying our taxes, but we do it. And why do we do it? Because we know that it goes to give a bite to a low-income family that can't afford food. We know that it goes to pay the military.
A bite, that's very little. I don't know if we're going to be able to save them with a bite.
Who keep us safe. We know that it goes to some essential services. But that trust.
Well, when Biden's in office, it goes to infrastructure as well, and the removal of lead pipes, and of course, renewable energy. So we no longer have to rely on petroleum from the Middle East or polluting our rivers and streams here in the United States, and that includes coal as well. So or capping methane wells to make sure that they don't just escape into the air while after we're done getting the gas out of them that we do use. That that kind of stuff. That when and of course, lowering the actual deficit, we use it for that as well.
That trust in our government, that trust in our institutions, it depends on us taking that trust seriously. How long are people going to pay into programs if they know that that money doesn't go to a low-income kid who needs health care, but that money goes into a fraudster getting rich?
Well, what if it goes? What if it's one fraudster and 100 kids? So you're going to cut off the program, and do you think the fraudster will be hurt? They'll just move on to somewhere else to commit a crime. In theory, right? They'll find another weak link in the chain and start working it. Meanwhile, the 100 kids get fucked.
This doesn't work, and this doesn't make sense unless we take fraud seriously. So I'm proud to be part of an effort in our government. I'm proud to lead the...
And I'm proud to be a big fraud. Well, at least I know my fate. Okay, so he goes in and they have everybody talk, and the woman Kim actually speaks the shortest. She's the one who actually does the work. And she actually knows how shit works. You can tell by how she talks about it. Everybody else is just showboating. And then he answers a question. And the first question he gets from the press is exactly the one that I was pointing out. This is the part I saw earlier, where they go, why would you cut Medicare funds to people who need Medicare? And if fraud is the problem,
said, hey,
because isn't that another form of fraud?
You made a mistake.
We've had a handful of calls. We're not sure they're legitimate.
Okay, so this is they cut off 800 people, and that were fraudsters. That they found them, and nobody has called to bitch about it. Was the story? And so, according to Oz, 20 people called.
That we kicked off 800 fraudulent healthcare providers off of the
fraudulent healthcare providers. So I don't think you can call them a provider if they're fraudulent, just healthcare scammers, I guess.
Medicare system, and not a single one of them called the government and said, hey, you made...
Actually, more than a single one, at least 20.
A mistake.
We've had a...
So you kicked off 20 legitimate companies that were helping people amongst your AI wash of whatever the fuck traits you were going after.
Handful of calls. We're not sure they're legitimate yet, but it's less than 20.
Well, what the fuck are you doing out here trying to hold your thighs from leaping forward or something? Do you have to go potty? What is happening? He does this a lot. Have you ever noticed that Oz stands like with his hands pressed against his thighs, like his palms are glued there? It's very odd. But anyways, there have been at least 20 of these companies. And of course, the 800 number, do we even believe that? Is it probably 80?
20 out of 800, and we're auditing them.
Unbelievable. So at least 780 are not even trying to claim that they're not fraudulent. And again, those are business.
Yeah, they're not even in the country.
Businesses that we were giving hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of dollars to, not to provide services, but to make a fraudster rich. It's just completely insane. Drives home the scale and scope of the problem. Okay, we'll take a few questions. I will say the ground rules are, I will take the easy questions. Any hard questions are for Dr. Oz. Yes.
They think he's joking.
Monica Alba with NBC News. I want to ask you first on the issue of fraud. As you're saying, if the administration is calling to specifically withhold Medicaid payments, why should the people who rely on those payments suffer the consequences for a state's failure to go after bad actors? And I have.
Okay, so Trump and Vance have both used language that make it sound like they're cutting the actual funds for Medicare and Medicaid, which they would never get away with. Now, why is that? Even if they fucking hate California, So much of the Medicare payments go into red districts in the eastern part of California, in the desert areas and Stockton and all those places that, where McCarthy's seat was and that kind of shit. They use so much more of it out there than, by a percentage, certainly, than the big cities do, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, etc. So they can't do that. If they started pulling it, it would affect the rednecks in the middle of nowhere, who are, like Death Valley, not the people in Napa.
And I have another question for you after.
So I want to be clear here. We're talking about withholding the Medicaid fraud enforcement payments that go to the state bureaucrats. We're not talking about,
by the way, reimbursement payments,
withholding people's benefits. We're talking about turning off the resources that the state government should be using to police fraud.
Which they are, which is why it's a reimbursement.
And then instead, we're going to use those resources ourselves because we're actually taking the fraud issue very seriously. But
what resources? If you don't spend it, it's unnecessary money.
But I do think it raises a very important issue.
So basically, what they're doing is they're taking money from the big states, the big wealthy states, and they're giving it to their little fraud group as a slush fund for them to run all over the country and spend however they like, glad handing in red states that suck up more Medicare funds than anybody else.
Going to be some politicians who say what you're doing here is harming the Medicaid program. We're trying to save the Medicaid program from dysfunctional state bureaucrats.
So sweet.
If you allow hundreds of millions, billions, even more money to go out the door, not to healthcare services for low-income families, but to fraudsters, you eventually are going to destroy the Medicaid program. So this is why we say...
Oh, yeah. Nonsense. This is a self-justifying bullshit committee. There's always a Medicare fraud watchdog group within the federal government. And what Republicans and by and large Trumpists try to do, like with the White House administration, office of budget, whatever that they were using, that they renamed DOGE, is already a congressionally funded organization within the administration. They just renamed it DOGE and gave everybody those offices and kicked out a bunch of people who were already working there. And those people went the fuck away from my desk, and it didn't last. That's why DOGE failed, because it was a takeover of an organization that already exists. And they, instead of going in and finding fraud and the misappropriation of funds and all that kind of stuff, all they did was take funds away from shit they didn't like. People of color, women, DEI stuff. Fucking hell. So, we're going to raid Boston Brian at 5:30. Got 15 minutes? Okay. Excellent. Because my concern is I just want us to have time for the kidney.
Has a very special place in the heart.
You okay? You guys okay? It was really terrifying. Sometimes it just takes over. Lately, it's been messing with my sound. It's been affecting the picture. It's just out there. I didn't want to say the word. It's going to come back anytime. So Also, we got to jump into this. And Gorka, we haven't talked about Gorka in a long time, but apparently he's calling these two dipshits domestic terrorists. And Alex Jones is having none of it because he's busy doing a show from his garage again. And I would just like to say that can we all just enjoy for a moment that the maggots have got themselves in such a fucking twist that they are fighting amongst themselves, where Gorka is doing videos about Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and Alex Jones is hating on Gorka. At the same time, he's going to tell everybody that this is part of the deep state and they've taken over and they're making Donald Trump do things he doesn't want to do. So, and obviously, I guess Gorka is intending that for both of these shitheads to be, the kidney's back in the, oh God, it is your tail showing kidney. I know that little part of the image upset me as well. That was the most terrifying part of it. That and the jump scare in the hallway. Yeah. So, anyways, these two gentlemen, by the way, there's no word whether or not this is indeed the demon that gave Tucker the scratches on his sides and his shoulder, as he described them, which again, if you were, in terms of how you would get scratches in those places, it just seems to me that, let's say you're in a truck stop and you're just getting snacks. It's the middle of the night. Your wife's asleep. And you just got to use the can. And you go into the bathroom. And this little demon sneaks up behind you. What could be worse? Except Gorka. You know what I want to do. Boink, boink, doobie-doo. You know what I want to do. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just asking questions. Right, Tucker? Okay, so here you go. Trump's terrorism czar, Khazar, his Caesar.
But right now, we are...
right now, we've got domestic terrorists who used to be president. There you go. So Gorka.
Not seeing comparable.
And by not seeing, I mean not seeing, which is normally not a bad thing, but right now we're not seeing. Come join me. We'll all go not seeing together.
Trend lines to violence on the right as we see on the left. And also, can I get
I love how they always drag us into it. Sorry, Jancic says what?
Extemporaneously, just kind of add a little addition here.
Please. Yes, please. You're digging a hole. Keep digging.
It's up to people like you. I'm not a political analyst anymore. I'm a counterterrorism government employee.
First of all, both of those phrases are terrifying. Also, I guess you're done shitting on government employees since you are one now.
But
like, government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. It's the Republican motto.
We have to have an effective, accurate snapshot on who are part of the conservative movement today.
Yes, we must have purity tests. That worked out so well on the left, so we should do that ourselves.
Because I would say to you, I'm not sure that Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson are conservatives.
You're not seeing it somehow? I can't understand how you're not seeing it.
If you are lauding a Sharia law, if you are saying that...
so what you're saying is what you're saying.
There are Muslim states that seem to be better qualitatively than America in terms of freedom and prosperity. I'm not sure that means you're part of the conservative movement.
Yeah, they are. Sorry, you're stuck with them. We're not taking them. Fuck you. No, you don't get to just toss your broken clocks in the back of our pickup truck, asshole.
So if you remove those individuals...
Yeah, you don't get to. They're yours.
And
they're still calling themselves America First conservatives, so fuck you. You don't get to relabel them and throw them back on the shelf. Yeah, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it at all.
You understand that they're not conservatives.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are. They're actually more conservative than Trump is. Good luck. See you later.
What's
Sucks to be you, Golka.
left? Who are the people in the mainstream of the conservative movement, Alex?
That's adorable. Yeah, there aren't any left. You purity tested yourself into a fucking cult. There were no mainstream pineapple farmers at Jonestown either. There were no mainstream kid fuckers at Waco. Wake up and smell the Naziing.
Who are saying violence is okay. Hard to find people who aren't fringe figures.
Well, once we've singled out Tucker and Fuentes and the ilk, there's no violence in our areas, our people. Where is Tucker calling for violence? Where is Nick Fuentes calling for violence? I have Nick
You have Nick? But you should let him out. You can't keep a young man in captivity.
last week and yesterday before you even came out and said this.
Sorry, you had him last week and yesterday? He must be exhausted. Maybe he didn't do a show today.
Decrying violence and telling the nationalist movements and patriots do not engage in any offensive violence. You are a damn liar, you interloping, ladder-climbing, sycophantic, worm tongue from Eastern Europe. Nothing.
Is it Tucker? Is that the TNR? Is it, I don't know, the Transnational Reflex magazine, whatever the TNR is?
Eastern Europeans, but you're just a piece of crap.
You tell him, Alex. Wow, you pizza crap. You're a pizza crap. You're the kind of crap I make when I've had too much pizza. Yeah, sorry, dude. You're like macho fucking opening video. Just, it's silly. It's very silly. At least my stuff is tongue in cheek, for fuck's sake.
Gorka, the gay whale, as I call him.
Gorka. Sorry, why would he be? Oh, I see. Is it orca with a G? So you went gay whale on that part of it, or do you know something we don't? He who asked Tim Pool for a fucking lap dance the last time you were on a show and drunk, which apparently makes you say what you really feel.
Now the head terrorism czar, the top counterterrorism official in the United States, who only became a U.S. citizen in 2012. He has like 7 or 8 fake British accents. While he's talking, he'll be shit.
It's weird that you didn't bring this up when he was there in the first term and helping with the campaign and stuff. Notice he didn't bother you till he came for you. It's funny. It's almost like you owe me a fucking apology, Alex. Me and everybody like me who was telling you that Gorka was a fucking fraud, that Trump was a liar and a fraud, and that you were going to be on the receiving end of it one day, and that's the only time you'd fucking wake up to it? Eat shit. Sorry, you don't get to call these people out now. You helped them get into power in the first fucking place. Shit, up until last year, you didn't, I don't even know when he started bitching about Gorka. This week?
He's shifting in and out of weird fake British accents. He absolutely hates my guts. He supported.
Well, again, everybody has a broken clock moment.
Supported the COVID lockdowns, 4 shots. He supported red flag laws. He supported.
Just like Trump.
All the censorship of Trump supporters.
Just like Trump.
During the first administration. I mean, he is a bad guy.
During the first administration.
Well.
Sorry, the first administration of who? It certainly wasn't Obama. He had a first. Biden only had one, so you could call it the first because there won't be a second, but whatever. You mean the first administration of Trump when Trump gave him a job?
Gorka.
It's almost like an accident. Trump just keeps hiring these assholes that go against everything he believes. He keeps falling into the same fucking bucket every time. At some point, this reminds me of that joke about the bear. This isn't about hunting, is it?
Has come out and put out a new national terrorism strategy, counterterrorism strategy. Remember, one of the first things Biden did in 2021 when he got in through fraud was put out his report saying the number one threat was white people and the number one crime is
no, it wasn't
white terrorism.
Also, no, the number one, there is nothing in there that says the number one threat is white people. Fuck you, dude.
That's like saying, the number one event is leprechauns running around your front yard or.
No. White people are real. Leprechauns are unfortunately not. I think they once were here, but I think there was an update to the sim we live in, and they just erased them.
Unicorns or something, basically doesn't even exist. But they then have this whole strategy to persecute and censor and all this control. Well, now,
yes, during which time you remained on the air and are still on the air, telling the truth about the fucking Illuminati, deep state reptilians, and yet they haven't managed to catch you, even though you've been in the same fucking city this whole time. I'm beginning to think these assholes don't exist.
it's all about left-wing terrorism and tranny groups and all the rest of it. But instead of saying they're going to prosecute them, or no, they say we're going to go after people for their behavior, not criminal behavior, but their potential behavior and their statements. And then he's talking to...
Sorry, what kind of behavior are we talking about? It sounds like you mean people who are disloyal to Trump.
The Breitbart editor, and it's clearly a staged, canned statement. And he's like, well, are there any right-wing terrorists? And he goes, well, no, we don't count Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes as right-wing or conservative. That's saying they're terrorists.
Wait, you're citing Mediaite? Fuck you, dude. You can't shit all over the left-wing media and then cite it as your goddamn source.
And
you guys know this just annoys the shit out of me. All of these fuckers, Tim Pool, everybody, they're like, the mainstream media fucking sucks. As it says right here in the New York Times, like, fucking go get your own news.
And then, in case you didn't, wasn't clear, the Breitbart chief editor shamefully says, we'll play the clip in a moment, well, we need to investigate them. They're clearly on the payroll of Qatar, and they're clearly, and remember, Tucker about 3 months ago learned that he was under criminal investigation
by the Trump administration?
The DOJ.
Sorry, the DOJ just in general, bunch of deep staters at the DOJ, were they? Bunch of leftover Democrats who still had a chip on their shoulder about them and don't believe in free speech? Or Trump is directing people at the DOJ to go after people who are disloyal? Like we all knew he fucking would.
As a Qatari agent with no evidence of it. Meanwhile, Qatar gives Trump a $500 million airplane. That's
400. We're paying for the other.
Fine.
And no, it's not fine. It was fine with you guys. It wasn't fine with us. There are no Democrats who are like, oh, the plane, fuck it.
And they call me a Qatari agent, and I'm sure as hell aren't.
Well, yeah, we think you're broke as fuck. I mean, you've got a map from, I think, is that Hobby Lobby? Stapled to the wall behind you. And turn off your overhead lamp. It's making your head gleam.
And they call Nick Fuentes one.
Fuentes? Sorry, how do you pronounce that again? Nick Fuentes? F-O-I-N-G-T-E-Z?
$500 million airplane, that's fine.
Right.
And they call me a Qatari agent, and I'm sure as hell aren't. And they call Nick Fuentes one.
Nick Fuentes. All right, sure. Maybe it's a different guy. I don't know. I'm going to go with Fuentes.
And so
Nick Fuentes and you've had him in the last 2 weeks. Couple times.
I've been predicting this would be the next thing.
Uh-huh. But you never saw it coming? How the fuck?
Because when you come out and call your most staunch supporters when you get off track, scum and idiots and losers.
Which he always did.
And fried.
Fried? Sorry, he called you fried? I mean, you're half-baked right now. That's clear.
When you come out and call your most staunch supporters when you get off track, scum and idiots.
Right, scum and idiots, that we get, sure.
And losers.
Yep, you're a loser. That tracks. Again, broken clock moment.
And fried.
Sorry. Fried. Trump calls you fried. You know what? Maybe you know what he means and it's really an insult. Maybe that's an inside thing with maggots. Calling somebody fried. It's like the opposite of calling somebody fire or saying something's fire like the kids say today. Dude, that's not fire. That guy's fried. Are you okay? You seem to be having a small micro stroke.
The next thing.
Yes. Predict the future, because you've always done that so well.
When you put
Alex Jones is right about everything. That's why he's doing his show from his fucking garage right now. I predicted everything, folks. I just couldn't do anything about it because it means I'd have to tell somebody and actually behave differently, which I'm incapable of doing.
neocons in who were key architects for the Democrats.
Sorry, hold on. Why are they on us? And also, why is your gut exploding? Did you eat Greg Kelly while he had gas the other day?
With all of the clergy response teams and the InfraGard and the training state police, local police to take on constitutional terrorists.
The clergy response teams?
Remember under Clinton, remember under Obama? All the
new counterterrorist strategy. No, I don't, asshole. Also, you're citing Ken Klippenstein? You're showing his articles and going, this is true? Fuck you.
Documents we got from local and state police and Fed.
Yeah, like this asshole will cite Ken Klippenstein and think he's a fucking commie, left-wing, race traitor, whatever the fuck. And then cite him?
That were good. Remember how many secret documents we got that became international news and were confirmed to all be real? Training.
They weren't.
For a coming war with American gun owners.
Which never happened, oddly enough. And we didn't even hear somebody say, why don't you take the guns first and then do due process until Trump came in? You never heard Obama, Biden, or Clinton say anything even fucking close to that. Fucking ever.
And now, Sebastian, the gay...
Gorka.
Well, Gorka, like as in Orca.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah. You're pretty simple, so it's easy to figure these things out.
With all of his fake accents, he has now, Mr. Censorship, come out with the Breitbart editor rubbing his hands together. And in the full interview...
like Anna Kasparian doing the Jew.
I'm going to play a few clips of it, but you can go watch it if you want. They're like...
Nah, I'd rather not.
Oh, these evil people are too popular. And Breitbart's like, yes, how do we shut them down? The people don't like us now. They like Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson.
This is a direct quote?
Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who's
Fuentes
on tomorrow for 2 hours.
Oh, so you're going to have him for the third time in 2 weeks. So just in case you were wondering and you're watching, Alex Jones is going to have Nick Fuentes on, have him for the third time in 2 weeks. I think he's jealous of that Tucker Carlson picture personally.
2 hours at 1 p.m.
All right, we're going to kick it over to Brian. Is he up? Is he around? Is he on? Are we on board with tossing to his show? Is he up and running?
He was going to be on today.
What the ever-loving...
But I had a dental appointment.
Okay.
At 9 a.m.
Cool. Who gives a shit?
And then I get there, and somehow it had been canceled. So I'm here.
Super interesting, dude.
So I moved him to tomorrow.
Good. That's probably best, because you needed to rest a lot after a dental appointment that didn't happen.
Perfect having him on today with this, but it's okay. So look for that. I'm going to interview by Russell Brand today. That'll be out this afternoon. I'm going to have that tomorrow.
Gotcha. So you're not just going with dyed-in-the-wool racist. You're actually going to be interviewed by a guy with 8 rape counts in 2 different countries.
Lot going on. Big.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Guess we'll tell you about coming up.
Yeah. What are you doing? Rubbing your old ring finger where you're to remind everybody you're no longer married?
But
is right. Sorry, what you were just saying? Your favorite part of Nick Fuentes?
I'm going to interview by Russell Brand today. That'll be out this afternoon. I'm going to have that tomorrow. Lot going on.
Right.
Guess we'll tell you about coming up.
And what was your favorite part of Nick Fuentes?
Butt.
I see. His butt. All right. Sure. That makes sense. Where was
You
I?
saw Victor Boot a month ago on the show. Pretty smart guy. He's like the Eric Prince, the Russian version.
Yeah, he's evil too.
Saying, Alex, I'm tracking all of this. The way you're being demonized, being attacked, next they're going to declare you terrorist. And here we are a month later, and bingo, bingo, bingo. when he singles out Tucker and Fuentes
and leaves you out of it,
you know where it's going next. Are there any right-wing terrorists, sir? But I don't consider Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes as being conservative, so no. But they'll be dealt with. Don't you worry about that. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, criminally investigate them. Get them, my lord. Get them, my lord. Get them.
You can clearly see that he watched that sketch or that clip over and over again because he just nails it. And this is, I don't know why he's hopping in his seat, but look, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. Okay, we're going to toss over to Boston Brian in a second.
And then he goes, Tucker Carlson endorses Sharia law and Islam. No, Tucker's trying to get detente. He's been a reporter for 30 plus years.
No, he's not a reporter. He's been a talking head, a pundit at best, an opinion anchor at worst.
He spent 5 years or longer off and on in the Middle East. He was blown up in a jumbo jet. They were targeting his dad, who was CIA shadow director, basically.
I thought Tucker didn't know his dad was in the CIA until after he was dead. And now you're telling us he was in a plane with him on some sort of CIA mission? Gee, I don't know why I haven't trusted this guy all along.
That was 2 weeks after 9/11 over Pakistan.
Sorry, Tucker Carlson was over Pakistan 2 weeks after 9/11? Way to jump in there, man.
Crashed on the edge of the ocean. Killed a bunch of people. So he's over there with the UAE and other groups.
That he would later make money with, yeah.
Trying to get peace, just like Saudi Arabia, at least on the surface is.
On the surface.
And he said...
Right, so Tucker's doing it on the surface as well.
Well, I get...
Because cha-ching.
Why people don't like Islam, but look at the left and transgenderism and pedophilia and the crime and the filth.
That's what it is. It's the crime and the filth. The beheadings, the pushing gay people off of rooftops, all the stuff that they complain about in the Orthodox and radical Islamic areas in the world, that just gets pushed aside when we might have trans athletes. Dear God.
You can go to some of these Islamic countries that are really nice.
They're really nice, especially the rich ones where they really don't give a shit.
Being nice. That's not endorsing Sharia law. And that certainly doesn't make you a terrorist.
Well, that wouldn't, but the other shit probably does. Yeah.
So
I'm just kidding. I don't give a fuck. I let them fight.
Oh, the left attacks Carlson saying, he's this big racist and a xenophobe.
Yep.
And
yep.
He's for sovereignty and
he's for sovereignty. Yeah, that's our big complaint.
Standing up for the West. But then separately, when he wants to be friends with the world, well, he's bad. I mean, imagine trying to say,
No, we're not criticizing him for that. Again, broken clock moment, and I don't think he's an honest purveyor of it. And just because he's finally embarrassed by just how much damage Trump has done. Like, look at where Trump's numbers had to be before this fucker jumped ship. I don't buy it. I think Tucker's full of shit. I think you're full of shit. And you know how I know? Because the rest of us knew this shit was coming. This whole, Alex Jones predicted everything. No, he fucking didn't. Listen to him talk about Trump. You could see this coming from a mile away, and he's like, I don't understand how this happened. Netanyahu must have put a spell on him or some shit. I'm not going to talk like that. I got to sing next week. I'm going to let you guys go. Enjoy Boston Brian. Send him my love, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Hit the like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to send you out with what did we say? The way of the world? Yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling downside out these days. It's funny when you listen to your own tunes. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Hit that like, share the show. Patreon.com/HalSparks.
I'm still one with a ghost of us.
Naming my mouth cuts too much.
Half a thought and it folds in two, like a bruise leaves a mark on you. Don't hurt in my shaking hand. Know something I don't understand. Like ghosting at the edge of me. Something there that I just can't see.
Thank you guys so much.
You hear that too? Or is it just
subscribe.
leave. Downside out, downside out. I need to go where I don't belong. Downside out, downside out. I need to go where it feels so it's the same sad song, empty space that was here all along. Every step is a borrowed shape, every second a vain escape. After crying out for sin, summer stealing the autumn wind. There's a face that I almost know through a window where I won't go. If you're there, don't let me see. Downside out, downside out. I need to go where I don't belong. Downside out, downside out. I need to go where it feels so still so it wouldn't ruin. Now it moves in the things I do, in my hands, in the way I speak, in the cracks when I try to sleep. And you sit like you always did, never answer, just nod your head.